Well, a terrific Thursday afternoon. How are you? Welcome to the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. And it is the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website where, hey, grand a day for life. Get it now at PlayAlberta.ca. I love it. We are live on Oilers Nation YouTube and Facebook. All of you, many of you streaming live at sports1440.ca, maybe watching us on the Twitter feed, listening on the app. However you consume the show, we very much appreciate it. It's going to be a busy Thursday, man. We got a load of the final day of the National Hockey League 2023-2024 regular season, and ends with 6 games, 2 of them with clear playoff implications. I guess you could make an argument that there's technically 3 because, of course, Vegas takes on LA tonight. Or no, sorry. Vegas doesn't play out. That'd be great if they were playing LA, but they're not. Vegas is hosting the Ducks. Meanwhile, Chicago is in LA. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights, if they win their game, doesn't matter, overtime, shootout, regulation. If they win, they are automatically going to be the team coming to Edmonton for game 1. If they lose in regulation or overtime and the Kings win, then the Kings, they would be tied, and it would be the Kings who come to Edmonton because they own the tiebreaker with more regulation wins. So it's really that simple. Vegas wins, they come to Edmonton. Lose, then they will need LA to lose their game. There you go. Now, remember, the Blackhawks did cost the Pittsburgh Penguins a playoff spot last year. Now, this isn't a playoff spot. This is just a different travel date. One's going to go to Dallas. One's going to come to Edmonton. The other game that has some playoff implications really would be the Oilers and the Avs. Because if, I know it's a big if, but if the Oilers were able to defeat the Avalanche in regulation, then they would finish ahead of them. And if they met in the third round, they'd have home ice advantage. Vancouver and Winnipeg, that one, you know what? I guess that one too has a little playoff implications because if they meet in the conference final, if Winnipeg wins tonight, then they would have home ice advantage. Now, a lot of things have to happen, of course. So there is a slight playoff implication, I guess, in 4 of the games. The other 2 are teams just playing out the string. You got some players maybe looking for, to get to 30 goals, different things like that. You saw Warren Fogle last night. Pretty excited celebration when he scored his 20th goal of the season. First time in his career he's reached the 20-goal plateau. Good for him. He might get to 21 tonight. The Oilers did not skate today, but they have 6 extra bodies around right now. 4 forwards, 2 defensemen. Nurse and Ceci had the night off last night. I expect them to play tonight. And look for Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard to get a night off. If I'm the Edmonton Oilers, McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman are also getting the night off. And then it'll come down to the health of Evander Kane. Probably is the guy who stays out. Right? If he wasn't good enough to go last night, although maybe they said, hey, you're going to play one of the 2, so we'll play you in the second one because we're going to sit out some of the other guys in the second game. We'll find out in a few hours as the Oilers wrap up the season against the Avalanche. Now, the Avalanche, on the other hand, they haven't played a game since Sunday, where they did not have a good weekend. They lost 7-0 to Winnipeg, and then they blew a 3-0 lead in the third period and lost 4-3 to Vegas. They haven't played well for a while. They got spanked by the Oilers. They got spanked by the Stars. They got crushed by Winnipeg, and then they choked against Vegas. In their last 5 games, their only victory came against the playoff-less Minnesota Wild. So I would think Colorado would like to kind of get their game back on track. Also, they got a pretty big milestone. Nathan McKinnon is 2 points shy of 140. Now, if he doesn't make it, it's like Austin Matthews last night. Right? So, because people kept talking about 70 goals. So now that Austin Matthews didn't score 70 goals, that means he has no chance at the Hart. Like, think about how ridiculous of a statement that is. But that's what people tried putting out there. Oh, 70s. You know what? 70, he'll win the Hart. So he didn't. He got 69. He shouldn't win the Hart. What? No, if you actually thought he should be a Hart Trophy candidate, then it wouldn't matter if it was 70 goals or 68 or 69. It wouldn't matter. Because if you look in the history of the game, he is now the 10th player to have scored 69 goals in a regular season, in a game. In a season. Only 10 players. Some pretty good ones. Mike Bossy, Phil Esposito, McGillney, Solani, Gretzky, Lemieux, Brett Hull, Bernie Nichols. It's a pretty good list. Now, Mike Bossy, one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, never scored 70. Scored 69, scored 68, 64, 61, and 60. 5 60-goal campaigns for Mr. Mike Bossy, but never scored 70. I don't think it matters. Right? At all. Now, I understand that Matthews wanted to get it. I totally get it. There's just something like, it's higher, right? Like, 70 is better than 69. Well, in hockey anyway. Hi-oh. But I look at McKinnon tonight. To date, there are 15 players, including himself, who have scored 138 points in a season. If he gets to 139, it's 14 players, because Paul Coffey, his career high was 138. If he manages 2 points a night and gets up to 114, well, then he'll be the 12th player at 140. Not 114, 140. Because Peter Stastny and Bobby Orr tapped out at 139. Now, Paul Coffey, Hall of Famer. Bobby Orr, Hall of Famer. Peter Stastny, Hall of Famer. That's what I'm saying. In the grand scheme of things, like 140 is nice, don't get me wrong. You want to get it. It's a round number. But if he finishes with 139, like Matthews had 69, the people who want to put like, oh, you got to reach this plateau to suddenly be a lock for the award doesn't make any sense to me. How can one goal or 1 point make that big of a difference in their value to their team? Toronto still would have lost last night if he scored a goal. So I've never really bought into that. But it's a good milestone. Personally, yes, I agree. Needing it to win an award? No, thank you. I disagree. You can always get involved. You can text us 833-401-1440 in our email inbox, 833-401-1440. The Oilers last night, it was a pretty emotional game for the Coyotes. And you could tell, like, you can only manufacture, I think, so much in your life. Right? Like some people will try to, Michael Jordan, everybody's seen the shows, and he would find something to motivate him. Sure. Now, was it every game? Probably not. But sometimes, yes, he would find, this guy wronged me, or I took it the wrong way, and now I'm going to use it to motivate me. Great. It's hard to do it all the time. And I think last night, the Edmonton Oilers, the Arizona Coyotes, everybody knew what was coming. Even though their own social media team put out one of the most classless tweets in the history of Twitter, which is saying a lot, after the game, just illustrates why I hope that ownership group, because it's his son who's running their social media, I hope that they don't get an arena. And they have 5 years to get one. I hope they don't. But then I hope Arizona gets a team after that, just going to be a different ownership group. That would be ideal. Because, for him to tweet out after the game, saying goodbye, we'll see you next time on June 27th, which is the draft. Like, what are you doing? Like, what a pathetic loser to do something like that. You don't think they knew, right? Of course, the official announcement came down today that the board approves the establishment of a new franchise in Utah. There is the future reactivation of the Arizona franchise if they meet the conditions of a new facility within 5 years. But the Coyotes are now moving to Utah. They will have a new team colors. They will have a new team name. Obviously, they'll have some new players, but they get all their coaches, all their draft picks, all the players. That's just relocated now to Utah, who is probably have a name the team contest like most do. Get people excited, get them engaged. They'll play out of the current arena But there's lots of talk that they will, within a few seasons, have a new facility that is much more hockey viewer friendly. This is like the Great West Arena in Phoenix when they first moved there, similar to the Barclays Center for the Islanders for a few years. You have some seats in the building that are terrible sight lines for the NHL, and it doesn't work. So they got 12,000 excellent seats, and then they've got some others where you probably see their capacity around 14 and change for their NHL games next season. Which is still 3 times more than what they were in Arizona. I think you have an owner with a lot deeper pockets who will be willing to spend the money to use that cap space, not just on LTIR where insurance pays for the players. You get the cap space covered, but you don't really get any players to help your team. And that's kind of what they've done for quite some time. On the show today, jam-packed lineup. Barry Stafford is going to join. We're going to talk about and it's perfect timing because there's a big event going on this weekend honoring a gentleman who did a lot in the community to help out. You know, yesterday on the show, we were talking about ownership. And, you even heard Biz Nasty, who, of course, played for the Coyotes. He loves the Coyotes, broadcast for them for a long time. You heard what he said on the broadcast? I really hope they get a team in Arizona, not with this ownership group. So that's a guy who bleeds Coyote colors, loves the Coyotes. And he's like, no. And when you look at all the other actions, it makes sense. Terry Ryan will be by. Also, Yaremchuk, Mike Rupp will join us. So we'll preview the Bruins and the Maple Leafs, baby. They're doing it again. Tampa and Florida. Got the rivalry games you want. So those will be the matchups. In the Atlantic Division, of course, it's Rangers and Capitals. Hurricanes and Islanders. Out west, we do know that Vancouver is going to host Nashville. Colorado travels to Winnipeg, and we will find out later tonight who's going to Dallas out of LA and Vegas and who's going to Edmonton. Jimmy Murphy will be by. Spec. We got the Here Comes the Sun promotion. We'll do that at the 5:20 slot today. If some of you are interested in wanting to win a $15,000 solar package, courtesy of Action Electrical. Also, NFL prospect from UBC, Giovanni Manu will join us coming up on getting close to the NFL draft. So loaded show. Livingston will be by. Lots of racing to get to. We got a lot of texts at 833-401-1440. On many of you asking about the orders when the playoffs begin. This is what I know for sure. As of right now, it's not 100% confirmed, but it's very close that the orders will open up Monday at home and then Thursday. Now, there is a chance that could change. And the reason I was told that by my source is because it did actually change in previous years. They were told one thing one day, and then the next day the schedule changed. So when that happens, you always throw out the caveat, still possible it could change. But a Monday, Thursday, I don't know why. Please don't text in and ask, why are they playing Monday, Thursday? I don't know why. I'm going to guess television, right? Because you're going to have, teams playing this Saturday. We know the Maple Leafs are going to start. The Eastern teams are going to start first, which makes sense because they finished earlier, right? Makes perfect sense. So you have the Islanders and the Hurricanes at 3 o'clock our time, and then the Maple Leafs and the Bruins at 6 o'clock Edmonton time on Saturday. Sunday, we know for sure the Lightning and the Panthers are going at 10:30 Edmonton time. And then at 1 o'clock Edmonton time, the Capitals and the Rangers. I'm hearing there's a good chance you might have the Vancouver Canucks playing Sunday night. So keep that in mind. The Jets might also be playing on Sunday, still yet to be determined. So there we go. Get to all of that and more. Hey, guys, who did you say wanted new ownership? It was former player Paul Bissonnette, Biz Nasty, on the TNT broadcast last night. Quick break. We'll return on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca, a big event honoring someone, if you're a hockey fan, you should be saying thanks to next.
It's your old furnace.
Call Legacy. Call Legacy.
Or for 24-hour repair with no overtime rates. Legacy
Barry,
even
we're just
heats your
talking
shower
about
with
it.
hot
Make sure you
water
can
tank.
Call Legacy.
So can you give me a thumbs up?
Call Legacy.
And with no interest and no payments for 1 year, it could only be Legacy Heating and Cooling.
Experience more at the Edmonton Expo Center. Come for Canada's largest trade show, the biggest names in entertainment,
Barry,
exhilarating
can you hear
sporting
me right now?
events, and more. Stay for the experience. But it doesn't end there. Maximize your brand exposure with Edmonton Expo Center's new cutting-edge feature screens, spanning Western Canada's largest
YouTube,
venue
can you hear me
space.
right now?
Captivate an annual audience of over 1 million visitors during iconic events like Pro Rodeo, Disney on Ice, Glow, K-Days, and so much more. To learn more, call 780-660-0514 or visit edmontonexpocenter.com
You can hear me.
today.
Please give me a
This
thumbs up. We
spring,
can't hear you right now. We
experience
just wanna run a
innovation
test
on the
make sure.
road at Volvo Cars Edmonton. Right now,
Got
lease
it.
from
Thank
0.99% or save. On a lovely Thursday afternoon. Welcome back. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook, is always presented by PlayAlberta.ca. If you go to PlayAlberta.ca, be sure to use your game sense. Go to gamesense.ab.ca and stay within your limits. Coming up this weekend, of course, the NHL playoffs will begin on Saturday, and maybe it's fitting that in Edmonton, the playoffs don't begin on Saturday. They'll likely start on Monday. But in Edmonton on Saturday night, they'll be honoring a gentleman who had a pretty big impact on keeping the Oilers in Edmonton I know yesterday we talked about the Coyotes and people like, oh, yeah, they're not a great market. Well, I don't think a lot of people remember just how close the Oilers were to leaving. And I think a lot of people would say Edmonton's a pretty good sports market. But that doesn't always guarantee that you get a good team. Longtime Oilers equipment manager Barry Stafford joins us now as we go to our big guest of the day, brought to you by the Junior Prospects Hockey League, which, of course, is very unique in the sense that it's U14, U15, and U18, and has a focus on education and player development. They continue to expand and grow. Go to juniorprospectshockeyleague.com and learn more. Barry, how you doing?
Fantastic, Jason. Fantastic.
Oh, I love it. You got the Oilers still bleeding the orange, I see. You got the hat on. That's nice.
I got my playoff hat on, buddy. I'm ready
now,
to rock.
You were in the organization a long time. Were you a guy who kept a lot of memorabilia stuff? Like, do you have a box of like old Oilers stuff around your house?
It's an interesting question that I get asked a lot. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you can see behind me here. I've got a picture of Dave Semenko.
Oh yeah,
right in my office. Yeah, and I have a few minor mementos. But I grew up in the era where there were so many people collecting items, and it was just a bit of an annoying for me. And I just never got hooked into the collecting side of things. And I have very few collectible items in my office. My favorite picture is my dad and I in the 1984 Stanley Cup. He's drinking champagne out of the cup, so that's my favorite picture.
Oh, nice. I like that. So coming up on Saturday night, it's Toast of the Town. Toast, maybe a little bit of roast for Cal Nichols, who of course was part of the OEG group that he was a major part to keep the Oilers in Edmonton for a long time. And then, of course, before, he helped also facilitate the sale to Daryl Cates. Give us a little bit about Toast of the Town and who guys are helping out on Saturday.
Well, a brief history, about 2016 or so. I mean, I was diagnosed with cancer and went through myeloma cancer, which is a blood cancer. And I met a good friend of mine through the Cross Hospital named Brian Anstice, my co-chair. And we sat together and decided, look, we want to try and do something to help in the cancer world and help the folks at the hospital. And so they came up with this idea actually to run the Toast of the Town. And the mandate has two main areas. Number one is to recognize a well-known Edmontonian, a philanthropist in the community, somebody that people know and maybe hasn't been recognized as well as they should be. And the second part of that mandate was simply honoring all the researchers, the doctors, the nurses, the staff at the Cross Hospital for the outstanding work that they do. So, this will be our fourth toast. I was the guinea pig in the very first one. It did start as a roast, but I said, come on, my mother's going to be there. And so we decided we didn't want to do a roast. We wanted to do a toast, and it was more a celebration. We celebrated Kevin Lowe in 2022, and that was fabulous. That was just a great event. And we actually toasted Lanny McDonald in Calgary through the Flames organization, because the proceeds go to all of Albertans affected by blood cancer. And, it's been an unbelievable run. And this year we were so fortunate to be able to include, an iconic Edmontonian for sure, Mr. Cal Nichols, who, like you mentioned, he actually saved the Oilers, and we wouldn't be here today probably if it wasn't for Cal Nichols.
No, 100%. I think he spearheaded that group, was a major part of it. Obviously, there was lots of other guys, Bruce Saville and many others who were part of it. But it's funny because we when we look at Arizona leaving, and when you look at the history of that team, over 27 years, they had 27 seasons. I guess it's 28 years, but they had 7 different ownership groups. None of them ever lasting very long, at 4 or 5 years, right? And that's just when and you were in an organization. Even Peter Pocklington, obviously at the end it wasn't as great as it was to start with, Barry. But when you have consistency in any organization, you have a much better chance of long-term success.
Well, I do. I agree with you 100%. I mean, I do want to point out that, of course, Cal was the leader, but there was 34 very well-known, respected business people, and kudos go to everyone in that group. Cal became the de facto leader, and I mean, there's so many people that we know that were part of that group. So, yeah, he's a very respectful person, and he's a bit of a how could I say, he doesn't want to take the credit for it, of course, but he's a modest person. And when I get to your point about Peter Pocklington, the same thing. People can say what they want about Peter. Yeah. Peter was a good leader for the team, a good owner, and we accomplished a lot as far as the professional side and the business side and the hockey side with Peter Pocklington as well.
Oh, yeah, you have to thank Peter simply for the Gretzky trade, because that really helped Edmonton, no question about it. But he also brought the team here originally, and they hadn't had one. And so, yeah, he made some mistakes and did some other things for sure. But if you're a hockey fan, you can't think the Oilers wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Peter Pocklington. That's just a fact, right? So that's just how it goes. Now, going back to the toast of the town and honoring Cal Nichols and the fundraising part of it, and I think it's a sold out event, but just kind of take me back or take me through a little bit. I know your own journey with the cancer, Barry, and how the plans is and where you guys look to use those funds to help people moving forward.
Well, we've been very fortunate, Brian, my co-host and I, our co-chair and I will point out that there's 23 people on our committee. And as you know, it takes a village of dedicated, committed people that really, really care about a cause. So we have a great team behind us. And, the person that basically saved both of our lives was Dr. Michael Chu. And Dr. Chu is also working with Brian right now on his 5th trial. Not to get into the details, but Dr. Irwindeep Sandhu is my oncologist, and he's the one that I worked with. But the point I'm making is Dr. Chu is a born in Edmonton person, a gentleman that has started a Made in Alberta project, which and I want to emphasize this, it's made in Alberta. It's affecting and it's helping all Albertans, not just Northern Alberta. And it's basically cutting edge technology. Our byline is what we do today saves lives tomorrow, Jason. And you and I have talked about this a lot. We're here to help save lives of people with blood cancer. But the kind of cool thing about it is because of the progress that's been made, not only in this form of cancer and research, but the immunotherapy program that Dr. Chu is leading is affecting all other forms of cancer, many other forms of cancer, including how could I say it, solid tumor cancers, other blood cancers, and it's even gone into glioblastoma, which is unfortunately the cancer that young Ben Stelter died from. So it's affecting a lot of the spectrum in the cancer world, and it's a very exciting and it's a great cause, and we're lucky it's all happening right here in Alberta.
You mentioned, specifically, like it obviously branches off and helps a lot, but it focuses a lot on blood cancer. We've had a few people texting how, if there's people out there that need help there, how do they reach out to you guys to get the help?
Well, I will say that, it can be a bit of a controversial subject right now in Alberta with the healthcare, and there's lots of challenges, as we know. But as far as my experience and our experience with the Cross Hospital, we as Edmontonians should be very, very proud of what that little Cross Cancer Hospital has accomplished. It's known on a world stage, not only just for blood cancers, but in many ways we take that for granted. But it's only because we don't know and understand it, and that's part of what we do. We educate. We're here to educate, and we're here to help people with the awareness factor. The biggest thing that I can suggest is, of course, you need to go through your family doctor in the case of, anybody that needs some help in the medical side. And eventually, if it is, unfortunately, the world of cancer, there's world-class oncologists that work right here in our own back door, as far as the up-to-date treatment protocols and whatever. So as far as that goes, I would, the Cross Cancer we're very lucky to have that hospital right here.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's no question. And now it's sold out for this year, Barry. But if people want to help out, how could they help
okay.
out in the future?
Okay, Jason, that's a great question, and thank you for asking. I mean, we've just been overwhelmed by the support, and once again, it's the Edmonton community. We can't say enough about the support that we've been getting and all the great charities. I know you're involved in I don't know how many, 4 or 5 charities yourself personally. So, it's a very giving community. Because of Cal and the demographic and the quality of the people involved at that level, we were very fortunate to be sold out early. But there's many different ways to support, and I mean the best way is, I would say, just go right on the Toast of the Town website. It's a very good website set up by Focus Communication as our partner there, and you can donate. There is actually a new program that was set up specifically for Cal Nichols and our Toast of the Town, and it's called the 98 program. 98 was the year that Cal and the group stepped in to basically save the Oilers. So that number signifies that year. And, we're asking people if they want to help, if they can't attend the event, for sure. You can donate $98 or whatever you can afford to do to help. But it's right on the website. And, we're very fortunate and thankful that we have the support that we have.
Well, Barry, I look forward to seeing you on Saturday at the event to Toast of the Town. Should be a lot of fun.
Well, I can hardly wait to see you as well and some of the great Edmontonians that are coming. And I want to just mention, too, that I can't leave without saying how grateful we are for the Oilers organization. The Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation has been unbelievable. We're included in a 50-50, and the Oilers alumni in that group, and that's kind of my family. And, thanks to everybody, and we really appreciate and are very grateful to you, Jason, for this, and also to the city of Edmonton.
Awesome, Barry. Great to talk to you again, man. Have a great day.
Thanks a million.
There you go. That's Barry Stafford and Toast of the Town, man. They do a lot of great work. I want to read this text we got in. Hey, guys, I'm super proud of the work Toast of the Town does. I'm a blood cancer survivor. Spent 5 months as an inpatient at the Cross Cancer and wouldn't be here today without the support of that amazing facility. Dr. Chu is involved with my case as well. Was super blessed to have an amazing organization right here in our own backyard. From Gerard. Well, Gerard, hey, man, that's awesome story. Thanks for the text. Thanks for sharing, taking the time to send that in. And we're happy to hear that, it worked out well for you. 5 months, that's a long run. It's a long run. So great to hear. And I know there's lots of others out there that have been in, like the Cross Cancer is an amazing facility. It's outstanding. I got a tour of it many years ago, and it's so eye-opening when you get to, like, we see the facilities from the outside. And it was like, for many years, we used to do our show at the Stollery, and, you really got to know the staff and you hear their stories. And like, from an outsider, because, knock on wood, my son's never had to go to the Stollery. And I'd never, back then, when I first started, when we were doing shows, I didn't have kids then. So, but I knew people in there, and I still remember there's a girl I went to high school with. Obviously, I hadn't seen her in a long time. And we sit down to do, because back then you used to get families that would come on and we would interview them. And she sits across to me, Simone, and I look at her and I'm like, and then I see the name, but she'd obviously been married now. She had a different last name, but I looked at her and I'm like, Simone, and she's like, oh, hey. And I'm like, it really hit home. It's someone, and we talked about the long battle that her daughter had, and just how the Stollery essentially saved her life. And I'm sure there's many of you out there, whether it's you or your friend or family or somebody that where the Stollery literally saved someone's life. And those type of facilities, the Cross Cancer, it's the same thing. It's amazing. We're really blessed in Edmonton. It's still why, selfishly, it bugs me to no end that we took down the City of Champions sign. Like, to me, that's just another classic example of giving into the vocal minority, worried about that house. Oh, well, it's not a direct reflection of what? Because they were going to come up with a new name. Oh, yeah? What did that board do? And trust me, I got invited. I sat on it. Nothing came of it. We don't have some new great theme. What do we have? Nothing. We used to have Edmonton City of Champions. Now what do we have? Nothing. Well, someone else was city champ. Who cares? Like when you want to look back at absolutely inane, unnecessary decisions, that's at the top of the list. I don't care why the reason came about. It doesn't matter. City of Champions represented lots of different things. Some people got their shorts in and it's only people think it's sports. No, it's whatever you want it to be. If you want to whine and complain about it, that's what happened. It's too bad because there's places like the Stollery, the Ronald McDonald House, the Cross Cancer, and many others. And then just the reason why I look at Edmonton and area as the City of Champions and the surrounding area, because the amount of money that is raised in this community is, and honestly, I think some of us just take it for granted. Like you go to Toronto, go to Vancouver, much bigger cities, look at their 50-50s at their sporting events and compare. It's not even in the same remote time zone. Right? Like people here, it's like, oh yeah, $100,000 for a 50-50. Like it's nothing. That's like 10 of them in Toronto. It's just different, right? It is just different here. We are very philanthropic for a lot of people in the community. And I know that from the listeners of this show. And that's why we'll always continue to do fundraising on the show because I think it matters. It helps out a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't get the help they need. And that's what our community is great at. I love it. So toast to the town. Tip your hat to them. If you're going to the event, I hope you have a great time. And as Barry said, you can check out their website if you want to help out. When we return, how about this? I'm going to give you I don't know how many of you, because most guys, you have your calendar. Now, I don't know many single gentlemen, and I'm probably making a generalization here, but I don't know many single guys who, when they live by themselves, or even if you live with roommates, if you had a calendar on your fridge that would outline what you're supposed to do, right? That's more so you get into a relationship and for whatever reason, now there's a calendar. Everything's got to be there. Some people are way more organized than others. I get it. That's fine. Especially when you have multiple kids. I understand why you have to have it. Sally has a game here. Peter has a game here. Paul's in dancing, whatever it is. So I get it. But let's be real. When you're a single guy, you never had it. And even if you're in a relationship and you might not even use it. You know it's there, but you don't necessarily abide by it. But our next guest, who's aspiring NFLer, I got a picture of his upcoming his calendar this month. Now, it's a little bit different than most of ours. I would say probably a little bit more exciting, but I'm going to go through the calendar with him next. And we'll have some fun with that on the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440 and Orders Nation, YouTube and Facebook.
I
you. Welcome back. Jason Gregor. Connor Halley with you on The Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. A lot of text flying in at 833-401-1440 in the text line. Many of you wondering when are we doing our big contest today? It's 5:20 today for our Here Comes the Sun, an opportunity for someone to win a $15,000 solar package on their home, courtesy of Action Electrical. That will come up at 5:20 today. Now let's get to the NFL report, brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling, where the rates never change, man. It doesn't matter if it's midnight, you got on the weekends, you need furnace repair, your AC's leaking all over the place. Call Legacy, they'll come fix it. No overtime charges at legacyheating.ca. And a very special guest. We were joking about this before the break. Coming on, of course, lineman at UBC has been very busy in the interview process leading up to the NFL draft coming up next Thursday. Giovanni Manu joins us. Giovanni, how you doing, my man?
I appreciate it. I'm doing good. I appreciate you guys having me on here.
Hey, thanks for coming on. So I was joking earlier. Now, most gentlemen, most men don't have a real calendar in their life. Now, maybe a little bit on their phone here and there, but definitely not in their house, on their kitchen until you get in a relationship, and then suddenly you're filling out the calendar all the time. I was looking at your calendar in the month of April, and pretty much like every day from the 4th until yesterday, you've got interviews. You're with the Cowboys on the 4th, the Giants on the 8th, the Jets, the Browns, the Patriots, Bengals, Colts, Lions, Packers, Chiefs, and Broncos. So how long was each one of those interviews? And do you prepare differently for one team to the next?
Yeah, it's been a crazy whirlwind. I just came back yesterday from doing 11 days on the road. It's the interview process. Basically, I'm spending a whole day with the team, and then basically the night off, I fly to the next team and spend the night at the next state I am and just redo the whole thing. And
wow,
yeah, it's been crazy. For me, going into the interviews, one thing my agent told myself is just to be myself. Don't try and be anyone else that you're not. Just to be myself, and that's the way I do it. And these guys are just wanting to get to know me as a football player and what I do off the field. So that's their number one thing they want to know of on these visits. So yeah. Was
there any questions that caught you off guard?
Oh yeah, that was one question that got asked to me. It was pretty funny. One scout asked me if there's anyone, if they drafted me, would there be anyone from here in Canada that'll be willing to track me down and cause harm to me in America? And I laughed and I said, I sure hope not, because that would be bad. But I don't think there'll be anyone like that. But that was the one question that kind of threw me off.
Giovanni Manu joins us. He's a 6'8", 352-pound offensive lineman, of course, offensive tackle, played at UBC. And all of it, a lot of people wonder, Giovanni, you're playing at UBC. It's different than playing, NCAA. It's going to be more challenging, the yard off the ball and stuff. I'm assuming lots of them asked you about that difference. And do you think it's that much of a challenge for you as an offensive tackle, or does playing closer to the guy is going to benefit you?
I think playing closer to the guy is going to benefit me very well. The Canadian game makes the battle in the line of scrimmage a bit harder because, the yard off the ball gives the defender more time to react. Whereas in the American game, I could latch onto my defender right away, especially if I have long arms, which I do. It gives me a great advantage at that level. So there won't be that much hard of a transition. Everything else besides the yard of the ball is the same. The box is still the same. The defense come out is still the same. So, yeah.
Is it a little overwhelming for you, doing this, 10 interviews in 10 days with all these different teams, you're traveling all over, or is it just like, oh my, I can't believe I'm getting interviewed by 10 different teams in 10 days? Like, how do you approach it?
Yeah, it's been crazy. I just try to stay leveled and try to just be myself throughout the whole thing. I would say it's just been extremely hard on myself to try and find time to, work out and do all that while traveling. So I would say that's the only one thing that I had. But yeah, the interviews I've just went in it just being myself and, just answer every question to the best of my ability. So yeah.
So do you set up your interview schedule? Like how do you get it so that, like, is it the first team that calls, says, okay, we want to interview this day? Okay, yes. Or or do the teams all kind of work together? And how do you, like, do you have to pay for all your travel, or do they pay to fly you in? I'm assuming they must pay.
Yeah, no, they pay for everything, and hotels, flying, travel, food, all that. And as far as scheduling the visit, so my agent, that's who they contact.
Okay.
They contact him, and then he'll schedule everything. And so he'll schedule it all in, and he'll send me a calendar. But it was crazy because last week before I left, we were only going to do, I think I was only going to leave for 4 days or 3 days.
Okay.
And then I remember my first visit was with the Giants, and it was just supposed to be the Giants and then the Jets, and I was going to come back home. But as soon as I finished the Giants, I looked at my phone and I got like 3 missed calls from my agent. He's like, "Hey man, I hope you packed a lot of clothes because I just scheduled 8 more teams onto your trip, and you're not coming home anytime soon." And I remember just scratching my head and being stressed out, but then I said, it's what the hell, we might as well not do it. So that's just kind of been it.
Well, that's part of it. You want to get drafted, you want to go to the next level and play there. Now at 6'8", 352 pounds, man, like, they must be first class. You're not sitting in a middle seat on these flights, are you?
Yeah, no, they've been treating me well. I've been fortunate enough to get first class on all these trips. So yeah.
When did you realize you were good at, like that maybe professional football was in your future? At what age did you start to think about it?
I'll probably say my first year of college, like first year of coming in to play football at UBC. So I would have been probably like 17 years old at this point. The head coach here, Blake Nill, I remember during our first fall camp, I was impressing the coaches early on, and he pulled me to the side and he told me, he basically just said, "Hey kid, if you take this serious in the weight room and on the field, and trust us to coach you for the next 4 years to 5 years, I believe you'll be in the NFL, not the CFL, but the NFL." And just to hear that from an experienced coach like himself, really just motivated me. And I kind of just told myself early on, just to lock in for the next couple of years, and then let's make this dream come true. So yeah.
Giovanni Manu joins us. Of course, he is a prospect for the upcoming NFL draft, which is next Thursday. Just wrapped up 10 interviews in 10 days with 10 different NFL teams. Also had the Cowboys a few days before the Giants. So 11 interviews here this month. Were there other teams that wanted to interview you that you weren't able to talk to? Do you do any interviews visual or like over Zoom and stuff between now and then, or now you done?
Yeah. As soon as I got back, the Washington Commanders and the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins all texted me to schedule a Zoom interview. So those are coming up next week prior to the draft. So yeah.
When you look at from your first year at UBC until your last, where was the biggest improvement in your game?
I'll just say, like my approach to the game as an offensive lineman. I feel like, my last year, I really ramped up the physicality side of playing the game. And that's something that I wanted to do, and something I wanted to take great pride in, because as an old lineman, I've told many people this, you can't be passive in the trenches. I gotta be as physical as I can to make sure that nobody touches my quarterback, or make sure, I'm creating great holes for my running back. So, and that comes with the great hire that we did last year with Coach Dan D'Orazio, great O-line coach, and he really helped me with that physical side of the game. So yeah.
It's interesting, Giovanni. I've been reading articles and following your visits and stuff, and they're talking about freak athlete, which is obviously meant as a compliment. So kind of where's the athletic? Were you always a really athletic guy? Did you play a lot of different sports? And were you always like the biggest kid in your group?
No, so that's a funny thing. Growing up, I wasn't known as the big kid. I was known as the small, scrawny kid, believe it or not. Yeah, it was crazy. I have a brother, and he was born first before me. He's older than me, and he came out at 13 pounds, and everybody thought that he's going to be the next 6'8" giant monster. And then I came in when I was born. I was 6 pounds, and I was a normal baby, and everybody thought I was just going to be a regular sized kid. But the one thing with me when I was growing up, I was always known as that kid that would be running around the house, causing a ruckus, bouncing off the walls. I just always had energy, but yeah, nobody knew I was going to grow this big, and it really hit when I went my grade 9 year transitioning to grade 10, that's when my growth spurt in my body, just going through puberty, everything started to go crazy. So yeah.
What was like from that summer? Like, are we talking like 6-8 inches? As far as height growth, like how big was it? And sometimes, having that big of a growth spurt can be physically difficult. Was it a challenge for you?
Yeah. So I think grade 9, I was like 6 foot, and then going from the summer of grade 9 going into grade 10, I sprouted up to 6'6", and it was crazy. I sprouted up to 6'6". I remember getting extremely painful shin splints. And I remember my mom would always look at me, and she literally thought something was going wrong with me, to the point where she took me to a clinic. And then the doctor just had to tell her, your son's just going through an amazing growth spurt right now. And then the doctor told her that he could be at least 6'7" to 6'8". And my mom went crazy, and I couldn't believe it myself. But yeah, it just on that span of the summer, I just grew 6 inches. So yeah.
So you grew the 6 inches, and then obviously you added on 2 more inches. What about like the size and the weight? Because obviously to be a successful offensive lineman now in the NFL, you got to be 320 minimum. You're 352. Yeah. How much of that was just the hard work in the gym, and then also maybe just the hard work of having to eat so much to maintain that weight and put it on?
Yeah. So throughout my high school time, I didn't watch what I weighed or anything, but my first year of college, that was the first time I ever touched weights and really took strength and conditioning serious and all that. And I think I was like 300 pounds when I first came in. And then, with weight training and better eating and all that, I gradually just started gaining muscle mass. And up to my third year, I just maintained 350. And this beginning of the year, when I was doing my pre-pro day training in Phoenix, I did a DEXA scan, and right now I'm at 11% body fat, which is crazy for someone who's 352 pounds. So basically, this is just a walking ball of muscle is what I have. So yeah.
A walking ball of muscle. That is outstanding. Giovanni Manu joins us. Of course, he's an NFL draft prospect. You played guard and tackle, Giovanni. Is there one you feel you're better suited for?
To me, it doesn't matter. I've told all NFL teams, I'm comfortable with whatever they think that that I best suit, and the feedback I've been getting from teams, is that they believe I could play both. So they're gonna take the approach, whereas wherever they see needs someone to go in there for, or wherever I can get the quickest play time, that's where I'm gonna play. So if it's guard, if it's tackle, I'm willing to do it. So yeah.
Now, what's kind of the expectations when you talk to your agent? Now you talk to all these teams, are you day 2 guy, you a day 3 guy? Not that it really matters, right? Like the NFL draft is the one draft where you draft in the first round, you're drafting the 7th round. It ain't much different other than obviously maybe the signing bonuses, but there's lots of teams that, 5th, 6th, 7th rounders are playing all the time coming out of the draft that year. So I don't know if it matters where you go, but, how are you going to approach draft day or draft weekend?
Yeah, to me, just from the feedback I've got from my agent, he's told me that to be expected to go early day 3. But, I've tried to not listen to that, because to me, I told myself, it doesn't matter where I go. And I've told every team this. It doesn't matter what round I go. It's just whoever takes a chance on me, best believe you're going to get a hard worker. And I, with confidence, I believe I am the best player in this draft in my position. So that's what I tell every team. Whoever takes a chance on me will just get everything out of me as far as a football player. So yeah.
Are there offensive linemen that you really watch and are a big fan of in the NFL or the CFL?
Yeah, in the NFL, there's a offensive lineman for the Eagles. His name's Jordan Mailata.
Yeah.
I really like to watch him just because I feel like, I have the same body type as him. And not only that, but he's got really smooth feet for how big he is in the pass game, and in the run game, he's just a avalanche of a man. So he's one guy I love to watch. Now, where did you grow up, Giovanni? Yeah, so I was born and raised in the South Pacific, in a small island called Tonga.
Okay.
It's near Samoa and Fiji, and I was basically raised there to about the age of 11, and then I migrated over to Vancouver, Canada, where my aunt lives, my mom's eldest sister. So yeah, and then in there.
And so you come over to 11 years of age. Did you know anything about football when you came over? And how old were you when you first started playing?
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about American football. My first love and passion was rugby.
Yes.
That's what I grew up. That's what I grew up playing, and that's what the NFL is to us in the South Pacific. So
yeah,
when I migrated, that's why I wanted to keep playing. But I remember my first day of high school, I spoke to the athletic director at Pitt Meadow Secondary, asked her if they had a rugby team, and I was quick to learn that rugby's not big everywhere else, and she said no. And then then I asked, okay, so if you guys don't have rugby, what do you guys do for contact out here? And she told me, have you ever heard of the sport American football? I said no, and she told me, on your free time, go home and search it up. So I remember I went home that day. I was about 12, 13 at this point, and I went on YouTube, and the first thing I ever watched or heard of American football was a 2-minute highlight reel of Ray Lewis, just destroying people. And from then on, my passion and love for the game just started. I remember I ran in the next day into the athletic director's office. I told her to sign me right up. So yeah.
Now, did you always play off? You must have played both ways as a kid. You play on the defensive side of the ball as well?
Yeah, just coming from a small town school, there was about 20 of us on the team. So I had to play defense, offense, mostly on the line of scrimmage. And believe it or not, I was a punter. So yeah.
How are your punting skills?
It wasn't good. I won't be lying. Yeah, it wasn't good. I could kick the ball really high if you wanted me to, but in terms of getting it out, that was my toughest challenge. So yeah.
Now I've noticed on your left arm you have like a half sleeve from your wrist right up until your elbow. What's the significance of the tattoo?
Yeah, so that sleeve just represents my home country, Tonga.
Okay.
Every pattern on it represents something on the island, and I've got the country's crest in the middle of it. And I'm really passionate about where I was born and raised, and Tonga holds a huge significance in my heart, and that's why I have it on the left side, because it's the closest arm to my heart. So yeah, I got it on me because I barely get to go home and visit my family. When I'm fortunate enough, I go once a year, but I just wanted to get it just to remind myself, no matter where I'm at. When I'm not home, I always have a piece of it with me. So yeah.
Now, Giovanni, you're going as a fellow guy who's goes down to the woods, shaves his head all the time. I notice you rock that all the time. Is there any significance with that? It's just more of a comfort thing.
The bald head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just genetics just got the best of me on my dad's side. Balding just came early on,
okay.
And then you know what, and I just told myself, you know what, I'm just gonna go bald. It might as well. It'll probably save me a couple of bucks from getting haircuts and all that, and yeah, it's great because I have some teammates who are always late to the bus on games because they're busy fixing their hair.
Yeah.
And I don't have that problem, so I'm happy, and I like to rock it. So yeah.
Well, it definitely suits you. And you're one of the few guys I can say that their shoulders are about as round as their head. You don't see that very often. Obviously, you're not afraid to be in the gym. So, Giovanni, we'll be following your story very closely here. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the next week, and of course, leading up, and then the draft and everything that happens afterwards. Continued success.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me on here. Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it, Giovanni Manu. That is a hell of a story. Grew 6 inches in the summer of grade 9 going into grade 10. 6. He started in university. He was 300 pounds. Now he's 6'8", 350. And you look at him on, like, you see certain offensive linemen, right? And they got, they're a little roly-poly maybe in certain areas. This dude is huge. Like, he is a big man. And you know what? You got quick feet. And think about, there's that many teams. Now, obviously, every team in the NFL, like the NFL draft is, I'm going to say it's better than the NHL draft because there's way more of the players who play, right? Well, obviously you're drafting them later in life too. Right? Like I've argued for years, the NHL draft would benefit the players and the teams more if it was later on. Even just 1 year, it would make a difference. 1 year. So this guy he is quite the athlete, man. I was watching some of his film. Cons, I know you follow the NFL very closely. Like he is an ultra athletic offensive line. He's got a sick vertical, very fast, could move. As he mentioned, he's got the long arms. I'm really kind of curious to see where he goes.
Yeah, that's what teams want, right? You want that big, staller offensive lineman, quick feet, funny he brought up Mailata as a guy who he kind of looks up to, because I believe he had a rugby background as well, and he just got paid this past offseason. He came over in the international program. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. And I kind of like that story. He goes to New York, he does a couple interviews, and then all the other teams start thinking, oh, they're doing it, maybe we should do it too. Extends his trip to 8 days, 8 or 9, 10 other teams. But yeah, he's got what the teams want in an offensive lineman. When you have someone that big with that skill set, and then, a relative late, getting into football. Like a lot of these kids start playing 6, 7, 8 years old. He came in a little bit later, so there's probably still room for him to grow and, demold it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of upside. So interesting to see where he goes. And he was a great interview as well.
Oh, he was outstanding. I really enjoyed that interview. So Bradley coming through again. I love it. Just after 3:00, we'll take a quick break. When we return, Terry Ryan is going to join us and more. But first, get to a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Booster Juice, where, hey, baby, if you like strawberries, now's your time that you should be going to Booster Juice, because they have the new strawberry blush smoothie. Sip, blush, and savor as you fall in love with this new flavor only at Booster Juice.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Game day, the Edmonton Oilers playing game 82 of 82 as they're down in Denver, taking on the Avalanche. Puck drop just after 7:30. Elsewhere around the NHL, the Kraken take on the Wild. Jets host the Canucks. Sharks in Calgary. Golden Knights up against the Ducks. And the Blackhawks in Los Angeles. The NHL's 28-year stay in the state of Arizona is officially over. The NHL Board of Governors voted unanimously today to approve the sale and relocation of the franchise to Salt Lake City for the start of next season. As part of the deal, ownership of the team will be assumed by Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith. The team is expected to play at the Delta Center, the home of the Jazz. The venue also hosted the hockey competition in the 2002 Winter Olympics. Major League Baseball today, 3 finals for you. Guardians knocked off the Red Sox 5-4. The Tigers falling at home to the Rangers 9-7, and the Rays over the Angels 2-1. Just 2 more games tonight. The Diamondbacks in San Fran and the Cubs hosting the Marlins. 2 games in the PWHL tonight. Boston takes on Toronto and Minnesota in Montreal. Both of those games will start at 5:00. Coming up in hour 2 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll be joined by our co-host Terry Ryan, as well as Tyler Yaremchuk of Oilers Nation, and we'll speed things up in the Cantork Race Report with Colin Livingston. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station. Broadcast
Just after 3 o'clock. Welcome back, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley on a lovely Thursday. Actually, not going to be that lovely. It looks lovely outside till you get outside. I couldn't believe it. Took old Maidmeister for a walk today, and I'm like, what is going on? I was wearing a toque. Jeez, a little chilly out there. Not that cold, but still. It was surprising. You look out the window, and you're like, oh, look at the blue sky. It's great. Walk out. It was like Abe Simpson. One quick turn, whoop, back in. Let's put on another layer. It's a little chilly out there today, so don't be fooled. But still get outside. It's always great fresh air. Enjoy it. It is the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Thursdays, I love it. A grand day for life. Just an easy, you know what? And for 20 years. So that's 7.2 million. If you do the math, we did it. And every day. Just a nice little reminder. Hey, what'd you do today? Well, I checked my bank account and I got paid. Perfect. PlayAlberta.ca. As we welcome to the show, getting set for another season of Shoresy. Stars as Hitch, also a two-time author, and not a big fan of people telling him that fighting should be outlawed in the NHL. I totally agree. Well, coming off his best rant ever, people were fired up. Terry Ryan joins us. TR, how you doing?
Not bad. Can you hear me okay? I got a new mic.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Wild. It doesn't, it just plugs right into the computer. I had some problems with the old one. It seemed like a connection problem, but hey, let me know as we go. This is its trial run. So the answer is good to be here. Thank you. And here's my new mic.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, it's loud and clear. Loud and clear. It's funny. We were just talking to Giovanni Manu, who's 6'8", 352-pound offensive lineman, plays at UBC. Didn't really know football when he came to Canada at 12. Ended up playing at UBC for a few years. Now he's potentially could be a 5th, 6th, 7th round draft pick in the NFL. And he was talking about like the whole process. He went 10 days in a row flying to different cities, right? To the Giants, to the Jets, to the Patriots, the Browns, the Chiefs, all across with all of them. When you went through the draft and, you're a top 10 pick, was it, did you only interview them like leading up the days before, or like how many times would they come visit you in Tri-Cities during the year?
Yeah, lots. People ask me that and they say, well, they assume that didn't happen back then, but no, it really did. It probably wasn't as hockey specific, the questions. It probably wasn't as detailed with working out, but no, I flew all over, and I all year teams came. Dallas interviewed me, which would be Craig Button. We had a good relationship. I was led to believe they were going to pick me. I'm going to say 12 times during the year. I flew there. Then maybe 3 days before I left for Edmonton, I flew to Toronto and I met one of their psychologists in the hotel. I flew into Toronto, did the adaptive psych test, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I flew home. I was there for like 2 hours. They were real. So Washington flew me, maybe 9 of us down that they were pretty serious about. And it was an experience. Most of the time I did it with Damon Lankow and Brian Boucher. I was lucky enough to have guys on my team going through the exact same thing. And when I say exact, it's not like they were Connor Bedard or like coming in. I was probably the biggest prospect. Tri-Cities picked me 3rd overall. And I nearly went 1st. So, I mean, they had an idea. Lanks kind of snuck in. He was a good player. I don't think anybody thought he was going to be a great, let alone a absolutely terrific, one of the best they ever had. I don't know. They thought that. And Boucher, we picked him up in November.
Yeah.
He was in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. He moved to Toronto to play junior B. We had an idea. He came out and practiced, and I remember Bob Laux taking us in and saying, "What do you guys think?" And we were like, now, sign this guy immediately.
Really?
By the end of the year, we were all rated in the 1st round, and we all went in the 1st round. So it was wild, but I think because of that, a lot of more teams probably came. It was very convenient because they could kill 3 birds in one stone, interview all of us, and we were playing like teams. Kamloops were in a division. They won the Memorial Cup 3 out of 5 years, right? Like the very teams we were playing against. I mean, I had 110 points. The reason Iggy and Doan didn't is because they were not buried, but they were on their 3rd line. They had great years, not the points I had, but it's because Lanks and I played a lot and everything.
Yes.
The whole division was spectacular. And so I think our situation for the time was maybe magnified because we gained and it's not like when we were 15 or 16, people saw this coming, certainly not with Bush and Lanks. So they had to get our interviews in real quick because they didn't really know much about us. So it was very unique, but oh yeah, it was tiring. I remember being very tired from it.
Was there ever a time like, they try to, I'm assuming there's some that are trying to mess with you or anything when you look back on, like, was there some, you're just like, God, I hope these guys don't draft me. Like they're kind of, or they just, you got the sense leaving there, you're like, oh yeah, they're not going to draft me. Like it wasn't a fit. Did you ever get a feel like that in some of those interviews?
Yeah, I've got it like numerous times. Well, I think I don't want to waste your time. Maybe one day during the rant, if people actually don't know the Mike Milbury story, but I got the feeling immediately after meeting him, I'm like, why am I in here? He definitely is not going to pick me. And they was weird because he was picking first and like 28th. And I remember saying to him near the end, I said, like, why am I here? Like, what? I know. I said, I remember part of the story, which I often leave out, but I remember distinctly saying, I said, after he like put me down 3 or 4 times in a row, I said, you're picking first and I'm not going to go there. And I said, you're picking 28th. And I sure as hell know I'm not going there. I'm going to go somewhere comfortably in the middle. So why are you're not asking me about my teammates? Esposito was different. He called me in and he said, Terry, we're not going to pick you 5th overall. You're not a good enough skater. We really like you. And if it was a few picks later, for sure we'd consider it, but definitely not. But we really like Lankow. And we talked about Lankow for maybe a half hour and they ended up picking him the next day. Okay. Yeah. Like, so that was all right with me. I'm like, fine. Yeah. You're telling me going in, be honest, and I'll give you all the info you want. I'm one of my best buddies. Of course I will. And so, but some of them were just a complete waste of time. Yeah. I remember the other one, New Jersey. And I had the feeling I really, really do think, I'm not trying to insult Jerome McGinley. He ended up going there. But if I had gone
to Dallas, right?
Jerome, yeah, I know. But if Dallas had, I was really thinking I was going to Dallas. Like I kind of knew that was going to happen. Boston gave me a great vibe. They were picking 9th, and then I figured, and they kept asking me about like Cam Neely and if I and with the name Ryan, an Irish name in Boston, and they were looking for. I'm not saying I'm Cam Neely, but it's definitely there were more similarities to Cam Neely than Wayne Gretzky, right? So, I remember them really, really enjoying that. And right up until like the minute I sat down at the draft, I was talking to Boston. So I figured 9th or 11th. But New Jersey, you know what it was? They sat me down, asked me a couple of questions like non-hockey related, like if a train is leaving from point A at this speed and another one's leaving from point B at this speed, where when they meet in the middle, and then some ethical stuff, like would you save a bus full of passengers or your family? Yeah, if there was some, I don't know, big dangerous, car, or there was a bus going to go off the rails, like, and you were sitting there and you could only save one, who would you save? They asked me like maybe 3 or 4 questions like that, and then literally said, take off your clothes, and they took a picture, and they ended up picking Peter Sikora, who was like 140 pounds. So it was a really weird, especially seeing like how they
asked you to take your shirt off.
It was in the Crown Plaza. Is it in Edmonton? I think they call it. That's the hotel. Yeah. That's where it was. We were right in there, and I just had to go up like 2 floors.
That was Lou Lamoriello?
He wasn't in the room, but I guess it would have had to been him. Yeah. I just honestly, it was there was a room with a bed. There was like a scout or 2, or maybe, and there was a guy with like tracksuit on, and he was just like
David Conti was their longtime head scout. I wonder if amateur scout. I wonder if he was there. Yeah,
could have been. It could have been there. One of the guys that I remember that was in the room was like in his 20s, looked like a fitness guy, a trainer. I never recognized him. Wasn't a hockey player, and he just said, "Yeah." And I believe they had a scale there. I stepped on the scale, I remember, and but the big part, they took a picture of me like 5 different angles with my shirt off, with my whole clothes off. I had boxers on, obviously. They didn't want to see what they didn't need to see. They didn't want to see Ted Hitchcock, right?
Yeah, it's a good thing you weren't running around commando at that stage. Hey, do you want to say, well, just so you guys know, I prefer to be commando.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been great. Had I known that going in, I for sure would have done that. Yeah. I was pushing some buttons, as you know, from the Milbury story. But I remember even the Dallas going, like, Dallas flew me to Toronto. This was like the last interview, and they started in like September. This would have been, the draft was July 8th. This would have been like July 5th. Okay. So they flew me to Toronto for that one, well, like a couple of hours. My return flight was like 4 hours after I got there. So but I remember them showing me like pictures, and it was like 4 or 5 guys sitting around, it was really hard to tell exactly what they were doing. So when they asked me, I said, well, these guys are at war, and, he's picking up for him. And, I'm like, any idiot I would think is going to give you answers that relate to hockey and like being a team player. Maybe they didn't, but I remember them calling me when I got home and saying like, and I believe it was Button himself. He talked to me a lot. I remember saying, you really blew that interview off the charts. And I remember thinking, well, it's just the obvious. Like, what would you say? You're 18 years old and people are asking you, what do you think you see here? I'm not going to say, well, this guy's terrified of his own shadow and, he hates sports. I'm like, obviously I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't remember I remember distinctly seeing that picture and going, okay, I'm going to run with this. And they probably showed me 12 of those.
Okay.
And everyone, I ended up twisting it back to like being a leader and, winning and family and values and those kind of things. And then I remember he said, what did you do last night? You're pretty chipper. I guess I flew up there at like 6 a.m. And I remember saying, yeah, I read the Bible. I remember saying that. Yeah, I need to read, and I'm trying to be a better person here going into the draft. So I went to Catholic school, but I figured I'd read some excerpts from the Bible. I really like the New Testament more than the Old Testament. I remember saying those words. Yeah. And I could back it up because I knew a lot of it in the Bible. I went to Catholic school. But anyway, that was forced, by the way, growing up. It's not like my parents were religious fanatics.
Yeah.
They were happy that the values that were instilled. But in Newfoundland, it was a denominational system. You had to go to whatever school was your religion.
Okay. I like it. Terry Ryan joins us here on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. We'll return. The Oilers, it was an emotional game last night in Arizona. Tonight, kind of playing out the string, likely going to have a lot of their big guns watching from the press box. We'll break it down next. Gregor, Ryan, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. This spring. 326. Welcome back, Jason Gregor. Terry Ryan with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook. How are you? Let's get to the oil report brought to you by VolvoCarsEdmonton.com. Let's bring us here, baby. You know what that means? 0.99% if you want to lease right now. Also, you can get an additional $4,000 off select models right now at Canada's #1 Volvo dealership and 13-time Excellence Award winner in service and more. It's VolvoCarsEdmonton.com. As we welcome to the program from Oilers Nation, he was in Arizona last night. Tyler, did you end up going to the game? And if so, what was your thoughts on the final game at the Mullet Arena?
It was honestly, Greg's, it was kind of awkward. Like, I know they tried to do the whiteout thing and they didn't quite execute it. And then obviously, you know, all the Coyotes fans that were there with their signs were coming to kind of honor the team in their last game, right? Celebrate, or I guess whatever, say farewell to their team. But then the organization didn't reference it at all. So it was just like going on like a normal hockey game, but it was this weird feel in the crowd, and the whiteout was kind of like poorly executed. And then you look, and some of the chants they had would like get going for a bit and then falter out, or the arena would blast music. So it felt like the fans maybe wanted to like celebrate the history of what they had for the last 20 some years, but the organization just didn't want to reference it. It was weird.
Yeah, it's well, the owner doesn't show up there, which maybe not a shock to me, but it looked like anyway, you know, the players really wanted to win. I think that was clear. You know, the Oilers were in the game for a while, but you could just see as that game went along that, you know, it just meant more to Arizona than it did to Edmonton.
Yeah, there was a couple of moments, like, again, some of the Oilers' big guns maybe weren't going, I won't even say 100%. They maybe weren't even going 90% for some stretches of that game. And it felt like at least Arizona was going 105, 110% to use the old cliche. So yeah, I'm not putting much stock in it though, from an Oilers perspective. I mean, nothing to play for. I think there's guys who are probably going out there and in the back of their minds thinking, all right, just don't get hurt and you'll be okay. Just live to see another day here. So yeah, I'm not putting much stock into the Oilers' effort last night.
Yeah. I'm expecting McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Bouchard, Ekholm to all be healthy scratches tonight. Would you be surprised if any of those five played?
I don't know if surprised is the right word, but I mean, yeah, to have that kind of core group, power play one, if you want to call it, sit out, I think that's probably the right call. There's no sense in risking anything. And excuse me, because I haven't been around my computer, but have we heard anything about who's starting tonight? Are they just going right back to Pickard for a second straight game?
Oh, I'd be surprised, right? Because I looked at Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner has never gone 6 days without starting other than the All-Star break. So to me, I talked to Stuart about it. You know what? He told me beforehand that he was pretty certain he was playing one of the final two games for sure, and he wanted to because he likes to be in the rhythm. So I'll be stunned if it's not Skinner.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Sorry, go ahead, TR.
No. It's all right. I was just, it's kind of a meaningless question, but I'm curious about it. I was asked, and I don't know the answer. And if it's obvious, accuse me here, but who wears the C tonight?
I saw it. I think Waz, our social media guy to Oilers Nation, floated out like, you know, if maybe behind the scenes Sam Gagner said this is my last game, do you give him the C as kind of like a hat tip to a great career? I don't think they'll go that far though.
I don't think anybody.
Years ago, they brought up giving it to him, though. Like 8 years ago, I remember he was an option. So I was just curious, you know, how you'd go around that.
Well, I'm guessing. McDavid. Yeah, like I don't. If McDavid doesn't play, I just don't think they have a captain. I think they'll probably have 3 A's, right? Like if Nugent Hopkins is in, Nurse is in, so there's 2, and you know, pick whoever you want, right? Yeah, I guess Sam Gagner if you need it, but I'm trying to think when a captain's healthy scratch, like when he's injured, they don't put anybody else. So I'd be stunned if anybody's going to wear the C.
My next question, again, it's really looking far down the road, but I'm curious. Another question that I got on my podcast, Tales with TR, little plug. If the Oilers make the final but don't win, is that a success?
I would say it is. And I know the ultimate goal is winning Stanley Cups, and it would be disappointing to then go into year 10 of McDavid and not have a ring yet. But I've also always been someone who says, there's one team that wins the cup, but there are multiple teams who can sit back and say we had successful seasons. And I think if you're an Oilers fan, if you're an Oiler and you end up taking that next step, you go further than you've ever gone and you get to a cup final and give yourself a shot, I think you can walk into this summer and walk into next season with kind of your head held high and say, hey, we were the best team in the Western Conference. We were that close. And I mean, if you get to the cup final, as long as you don't get swept, you could sit there and go, hey, we're a bounce or two away from winning it all. I think fans in general would be happy with a run to the cup final, and it would be disappointing to see them lose, obviously. But I think at the same time, you would recognize that the year was still a step forward, and heading into next season, there'll be a lot of the same pieces back.
That is a good question. Well, I can tell you as a player, it's going to, well, I'm not a player, but having spoke to players who have lost, it feels like a massive failure. With the organization, you've taken another step, but I think as the 2016 Sharks showed us, guys, they were very good for a long time. They lost. They never got back. They never got close. So I think you could look at it like, obviously you did a lot of right things. If you lose in the cup, no one can say it was a bad year. Like, well, I shouldn't say that. Of course, we all know the negative Nellies who would find anything to complain about. They would find something to complain about. Oh, this is why they lost in the Stanley Cup final, like as if it would actually be the case. But I'm sure. So I would say the vast majority of sane people would be Oiler fans would be devastated, TR, because that would be 2 Stanley Cup losses in 18 years. But I think they would enjoy the ride because it's a lot of fun. And how the players, like, I think if they lost, I think it almost strengthens your chance of re-signing Draisaitl, because you're like, you lose in the first round or the second round, you're not really that close. You lose in the Stanley Cup final, you feel you're close.
I believe I've kind of said in like a weird, sick, twisted way, getting right to the end and then not winning, I think gives you a better chance of re-signing Draisaitl than if you were to win it all. Like, I don't know, and I don't know much about him personally, but like if you were to go win it all, maybe he sits back and goes, all right, check mark. I did it on the team with Connor, and now I'm going to go get paid somewhere and try to prove I can do it on my own for my own legacy versus, like you said, Greg's, if you lose in the cup final, it's like, it's that unfinished business narrative. Like, you want to finish it off with your guy, Connor McDavid.
Good point. Yeah, no, that's very fair. Tyler Yaremchuk joins us. So the Oilers, it's down to LA and Vegas. It's been talked about for a while. They're both playing teams they should win. They should beat. Doesn't mean they will. But Vegas has the Ducks, and then the Kings starting a little bit later. We'll have the Blackhawks. They should know by the time they start the third period what's going on in Vegas or not. Is there one you want to see more? Is there one you think is a better matchup for the Oilers?
I think LA is still the better matchup. I think the Oilers have shown over the last couple of years that they can obviously beat the Kings. They've shown this year, especially in that last game, that they can go up against that 1-3-1 and kind of pick it apart. And the Kings at times have shown that even when it gets picked apart, they don't move off of it. They've made a coaching change and they're still rolling out there with the 1-3-1. So I think the Oilers have a much better chance of beating the Kings and the Golden Knights, but that's not to sit there and say they would just roll over and lose in 5 or 6 games again to the Vegas Golden Knights. I would imagine the sportsbooks would still have the Oilers as the favorites in that series. And I think you can make a case based on how Vegas has looked for the last 6 to 8 weeks, and maybe more importantly, how Adin Hill has looked for the last 6 to 8 weeks. I think you can make a case that the Oilers have an equal shot of beating those two teams. But Vegas, the fact they're getting healthier, championship pedigree, I think if Adin Hill gets hot for 2 weeks, he's a lot more dangerous than Talbot getting hot for 2 weeks at this stage in his career. So, I think your chances of beating Vegas are less than your chances of beating LA, but I would still mark the Oilers as solid favorites in either one of those series.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Personally, I wanted to play Vegas. I think it'd be more of an exciting series. TR, what about you?
Yeah, I'd like to see him play Vegas for that reason. I want to know, guys, from both of you, do you think Holloway starts the playoffs? You think he's playing?
I really want to see it, and I think if you
I
go
do
up
too. That's why
Vegas,
I asked. Yeah,
Vegas has some good speed throughout their lineup, and I just maybe want to see Holloway in there because he moves more. And I know he hasn't quite shown it fully at the NHL level, but I believe there's an offensive ceiling there that a guy like Janmark doesn't have. But you get into the points of like, okay, is it worth playing, Dylan Holloway for 8 5-on-5 minutes a game, and then he doesn't get those PK minutes? So how effective can he be if he's sitting on the bench for 7 minutes at a time? So I'm really, really torn on it because I really like the player, and I think that he's got a bit of an opportunity over these last 3 games, and he's been effective for them. But I just worry about the role they'd need him to play. Unless Chris Knobloch's going to do something kind of wild with his lineup and build maybe like 2 third lines instead of your traditional third and fourth line, I don't know if the fourth line rolls the right way to put Holloway in the lineup to have him be effective. But I really want to see him in playoff hockey because I think he's played well over the last week.
Me too.
Like Ryan and Carrick are both right shot centers. And realistically, if you're looking at speed as the issue, Janmark skates better than both of them. Right. And so you could say, hey, if Holloway was a right shot, guys, then I think there'd be a chance because then you could just play him as the fourth line center.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you could do that. Even though he doesn't penalty kill. I think to start for game 1, he's not in. But that can change as the series goes along. But based on my conversations, listening to Knobloch, also experience does matter. I know some fans don't like experience. Look at this team's playing their young guys. Okay, sure, they are, but they've been playing like Wyatt Johnson's been playing all year long and has 30 goals. It's a different conversation. So he'll start in the press box, but I won't be surprised at all if he gets in. And then if he gets in, he might just stay in, right? And that's happened. We've seen it before. Heck, the Washington Capitals, Holtby started, right, the first 2 games on the bench and then came in relief in the second game and then went all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So just because you don't have a guy in the lineup game 1 or game 2 doesn't mean that he's never going to contribute at all in the playoffs. But I really believe that the coach is going to go with what got them there to start, and that's veteran fourth line.
Yeah, Bobrovsky did the same thing last year too, right? Like it was Alex Lyon who played the first 2 games, and then Bobrovsky by the end of the playoffs. I mean, if Florida would have won that series, he probably would have been their Conn Smythe winner. So I think I agree with you, Greg. The only other thing is, maybe if you wanted to get him in, is it smarter to do it when you're on home ice and then you're not worried about Dylan Holloway getting stuck out there against the Jack Eichel line when you have a big moment in the third period against the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas? Maybe you do something where it's like, hey, Janmark doesn't make mistakes all that often. He's kind of more of a high floor player. Maybe you roll out Holloway for the home games, and then when you go on the road, you swap them out and say, hey, we have a bit more of a safer defensive fourth line when we're on the road. When we're at home, we're pedal to the floor. We're going to try score 6 goals on you and play a more offensive style.
Ty, as always, good to talk to you, my man. Hope you enjoy the time in Arizona, and we will chat with you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Regs.
There you go. That's Tyler Yaremchuk on Oilers Nation and Daily Faceoff. Jason Gregor, Terry Ryan with you. Connor Halley as well on Sports 1440. When we return, Livingston will join us and more on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca. We got a lot of people texting, hey, do we know who's playing tonight? No, the Oilers didn't have a morning skate. They played last night. They'll have immediate availability with Chris Knobloch coming up in an hour, or maybe an hour and a half. They called up Adam Ernie and Sam Gagner for a reason. I expect Hyman, McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard, Ekholm, those type of guys to enjoy a night off. Why else would you call up the players if you weren't going to do it? Quick break. We'll return on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Toronto Blue Jays baseball
Continue on. Lovely Thursday. It is game day on Sports 1440. Oilers wrapping up their regular season tonight. Somewhat of a nothing game for Edmonton. They can't move up. They can't move down. In theory, if they beat Colorado, they would finish with more points than them. So if they ever met in the third round, then they would have home ice. So there is something to play for the Oilers, but the fact that I think they're going to rest a lot of their top guys tells you they're not too worried about home ice advantage in the third round at this point. Nathan MacKinnon, though, he is 2 points shy of 140. And we saw last night, Austin Matthews, and I loved his honesty. He wanted the 70 goals. They didn't get it, but they wanted it. I think Nathan MacKinnon wants 140. He could become only the 12th player ever, third active player to get 140. Kucherov did it this year. McDavid, of course, did it last year. So he'll need 2 points. So they'll be fired up. And the fact that they be getting spanked lately. Oilers beat him 6-2. Dallas beat him 7-4. 7-0 shellacking at the hands of the Jets. They blew a 3-0 lead against Vegas, lost 4-3 in overtime. That was in the third period. So I think that's a team that's going to try to find their way here and at least go into Winnipeg feeling somewhat confident about any aspect of their game, because they just clearly they got to play better. There's no doubt in my mind. Let's get to the racing report now, brought to you by Can Torque, and they have new machining capacity in-house right now. Quick turnarounds, improved quality control, and ultimate flexibility. Call them at 436-2000 or send them an email, Colin at cantorque.com. And fresh back from racing down in Sonoma, Colin Livingston joins us. Are you a better racer today than you were before you left? Because you were there like for a week.
Yeah, without question. I learned an awful lot last week. First of all, I have to thank the boys that I was racing with at Ron White Racing. Spent a lot of time. We did a test day at a little track called Dixon. It's not really a racetrack anymore. It's more of a, it's a track where people bring their go-karts and they just run laps, but they don't really contest races there anymore. Because I was running the shifter cart, they wanted me to get out there and just do a bunch of clockwise laps to kind of strengthen my neck to work in one direction. Basically go out there, fatigue my neck so the muscles could build up. So by the time we got to the weekend, I'd be ready to go. Was on track Thursday through Sunday. I probably did about, I don't know, we did probably 80 laps a day, something like that, 90 laps and like hard laps. So it was great. I mean, the concept of driving this shifter cart is not natural from what I normally drive. Like what I normally drive is really closer to driving a Cadillac. It's the top of the Rotax food chain, but you don't use a lot of gearing to slow your cart down. You use the brakes. So trying to move into a shifter, there's a technique of kind of braking and downshifting in a certain sequence, and it's just to get my 50-year-old brain wrapped around new concepts, old dog, new tricks. It finally started to click though on Sunday. I was having a lot more fun, and my mechanic got really jacked up because he could start to see as I was going into the braking zone, like these things slow down so fast. Like you pick the rear wheels up off the ground and you can hear them when you get it right. You can hear the tires like kind of go trip, 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 because you're so hard on the nose. And I started to get that. And then when you load, you turn super quick to get the cart kind of on its side, which picks up the inside rear tire. So at one point he's like, we got to get more grip out of this cart, because like you're jacking that thing up like 9 inches. You want it to get up, but not that much. And then unfortunately I had a small mechanical issue about 4 laps to go in the final on Sunday. I was hunting the one guy down. I don't think I would have got him, but it was nice to kind of have somebody to play with. And one like 30-cent bolt pulled my bumper off, and I had to park a little early. That was disappointing, but that's the way it goes.
Now, speaking of racing, and Max Verstappen this week said, I just don't like street circuits very much. A Formula One car doesn't come alive at all on the street circuit. That car is much too wide, big, and heavy for that. You know what? They are going to return to China for the first time in 5 years. But what do you make of Max's thoughts on the street car? And is he onto something here?
100%. I don't often agree with Max, more on track than when he's just talking, and be really clear. His comments don't relate to China. China's a proper road course.
Yes.
They were talking about the upcoming race in Miami. But yes, 100%. The cars are huge compared to the previous generations.
Yes.
With this under tray, they're really, really sluggish relative to older generation cars. And again, on the street circuits, which I really don't like, because there's not a lot of racing. There's cars going around the streets, but they don't make a lot of passes, at least in F1. 100% with what Max is saying. They're talking about, a complete rules change again in 2026. So there might be a new chassis. There will be a new engine. So hopefully they factor all that in. And there's a couple of people, even, oh boy, drawing a blank. The Red Bull designer, Adrian Newey, is saying, there's an opportunity for us here to, as much dominance as they've had in this generation, which will likely win them 5 consecutive titles, because, Ferrari's closed the gap, but they're not really there. They're going to have their era, and then likely somebody else is going to take over in the new generation. But hopefully we get these cars back to being really alive. That's when they're the most fun to watch.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious about that. Now Williams is estimating already $2 million in repairs, and it's only 4 races. That's what most teams will spend that in a year. And so to equate that to hockey terms, or it's like you have a lot of your guys injured early on, and it's really hard to overcome, because now, don't they have a budget on how much they can spend on repairs?
They have a budget that they can spend throughout the year.
Okay.
So they're hard fixed. I think this year it's $136 million, which sounds like you've got a ton of, there's lots of money, but there's salaries that get tied up into that.
Okay.
Not the driver and not the top 3 or 4 executives. Don't quote me on that, but a ton of money goes into research and development, goes into wind tunnel testing, goes into, obviously traveling to all the races and all the rest of it. They're, to go through basically what they would have budgeted for the entire year this early. And they still, Alex Albon was asked this morning about, do you go into the race weekend worried about, more damage? And he said, you can't. You have to go out and you have to attack. If bad things happen, they're going to happen. I think after this race, they're going to have their next chassis available. But yeah, they're going to get to a point, I believe, kind of mid-season, where they have to start making really difficult choices on where they're going to spend their money.
Could they only ever race one car? Or is there a massive penalty for that?
Well, they did in Australia.
Yeah, well, that's because it crashed. But I mean, let's say you just are we're not going to fix the car for this week. Could they do that and without a penalty?
Yeah, because if your car's not ready to go, it's not ready to go. It's not like you can just make one materialize, or you could pull out last year's car, because it's not certified anymore and it's not registered. So, if push comes to shove, they might have to. And that's extreme. I don't want to wish that on them. I don't really want to think about it, but at the same time, it is entirely a possibility. If they mess something up, they're going to be in trouble.
Well, that's not great for them. Let's get over to IndyCar, and they're finally back. Right? It's
6 weeks.
Oh my goodness. It's just a ridiculous. What about the aero screen that's going to be used this weekend? Explain what's the difference, and will it make an impact or a difference on the track?
So the couple of things to note: it's a lot lighter. Now the windscreen is built by Red Bull Technologies. It's their Red Bull engineering division. They've shaved a significant amount of weight. I think the net savings is 11 pounds, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but that's at one of the highest points of the car. So as the car's trying to roll through the corners, taking that 11 pounds out is going to make the car is going to be completely different. They're actually going to have to rebalance the car. They're going to have to readjust their setups, because it's not going to drive nearly the same. It's got more ventilation, which has been a real big problem since they put that windscreen on, that the drivers just don't get air anymore. So it's safer for sure. They came to realize that, obviously the windscreen is far more encompassing than the halo that F1 uses. So the halo kind of sits right in the driver's field of vision, but they have pretty decent peripheral. In an Indy car, there's nothing that kind of obstructs, but they realize that there are areas that they can work on. So they've added the ventilation, which will again help these drivers. It's crazy that they're driving it up to, in Long Beach this weekend, they'll probably hit about 160, 165 miles an hour, and they still can't get air to the driver. They hadn't figured out to either open up the nose or, something on the floorboard or, somewhere else. You should be able to direct some air into the cockpit. But for the last, really the last 2 years, these drivers, they get all the radiant heat off the engine compartment, which is right behind their backs, and no relief. So, these guys are they're a little bit too stubborn to say like, listen, this is too hot, I'm not going to get in the car. But hopefully things start to improve here now.
And the racing at Long Beach, which lots of people say is one of the best open wheel racing tracks. Why?
Yeah. So Long Beach's history goes back to about is the mid 70s. They started by running some lower formula races, and really quickly and kind of unexpectedly, they got a Formula One race later on that year. Formula One race there for a period of time, but the demands from Formula One, especially financially, got really cumbersome as the event is trying to get built up. They moved the race from Formula One to what was, what's now IndyCar, but it was Champ Car back then. And that's really, when Mario Andretti had left Formula One, he was a big believer in that event, helped promote it, and it took off. But it's in a great location. So if anyone's ever been to Long Beach, you go and you see, the Queen Mary, you see the Spruce Goose, and just around from that is the streets of Long Beach where they run the event. For a street race, it's actually got some passing opportunity. The visuals are always great. Like when you get through, kind of get around turn 2, turn 3, the drivers go around the fountain. I've been there, quite a few times with my family when the kids were little, and we would drive through. I'm like, hey, you kind of pointed out like, hey, remember this? And then they see it on TV. It always looks really awesome. But yeah, the combination of the crowds are always great, great city there, and really decent racing. It'll be fun to watch this weekend.
Yeah, well, it's just nice to have it back. It's been out for so long, so it should be a good weekend. When's the kart guy? When do you guys get going?
We've got our first on track test and tune next Wednesday for the Off Camper Carters DD2 program, and then our first.
Do you know how
race.
many people you have? Because I know you guys grew last year. You know how many races you have this year?
I don't. We're still pushing. We hope to have 30 on track at some point this year. Last year, our peak was we've been on the verge. We've had 28 come out. I think our average last year was 24 or 25. So it's a big field. People are always welcome to come out and see us at EDKRA out in Warburg. Really easy to find. Just bang EDKRA into Google Maps. It'll take you right into our parking lot. If you've never been out there, please stay on the gravel. Don't drive on any paved surface. That's all we ask.
There you go. It's Colin Livingston in the Racing Report, brought to you by Cantor. Have a good one, my man.
Thanks, Shape.
There you go. Coming up after 4:00, Mike Rupp will join us. There is some action tonight that does matter for the playoffs, specifically for the Kings, the Vegas, as well as Dallas and Edmonton, because Dallas and Edmonton are the only two teams hosting that don't know their opponent yet. One's going to be Vegas, one is going to be the Los Angeles Kings. I know many of you have text in your thoughts on which one. I kind of get the sense because many people are like, you know what, it don't matter. Let's just play one of them, and you know what happens. And I think that's the best way to look at it, because the orders, hey, I don't care if you got to beat Vegas in round 1 or LA in round 2 or vice versa. You're going to have to be good teams if you want to win the cup. So you might as well play one right away. Let's get to the Con Man and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Fountain Tire. Make the shift to more savings. Save up to 25% on select tires until April 20th. That's this Saturday, with a bonus of $50 off any service of $150 or more. Book your appointment at fountaintire.com. Some restrictions apply.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
Game day, the Oilers wrapping up their regular season with a matchup down in Denver, taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Puck drop just after 7:30 tonight. Elsewhere around the NHL, Kraken take on the Wild. Jets host the Canucks. Sharks in Calgary. And the Golden Knights looking up to wrap up third spot in the Pacific with the victory over the Ducks. If they were to lose and the Kings were to beat the Blackhawks, they could jump into that number 3 spot. Off the ice today, the NHL's League of Governors voting unanimously to approve the sale of a relocation from the Coyotes of Arizona out to Salt Lake City for the start of next season. As part of the deal, ownership will be assumed by Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith. The team is expected to play out of the Delta Center, the current home of the Jazz. The venue also played host to the Olympic Games back in 2002, where Canada picked up the gold medal. Earlier today, applications were filed with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for the following names: Utah Blizzard, Utah Venom, Utah Fury, Utah Hockey Club. Major League Baseball, Jays off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow, kicking off a series with the San Diego Padres. Later tonight, you got the Cubs and Marlins, and the Diamondbacks take on the Giants. Some finals, the Rays knocked off the Angels 2-1. Rangers over the Tigers 9-7, and the Guardians dropped the Red Sox 5-4. 2 games in the PWHL as Toronto will be in Boston, and Montreal hosts Minnesota. Puck drop in both those games at 5 o'clock. Coming up in hour 3 of the Jason Gregor Show, we will be joined by former NHLer and NHL Network analyst Mike Rupp, as well as Bruins reporter Jimmy Murphy. Plus, we'll ask 5 questions. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Hey, how are you? Welcome back. It's game day on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. Of course, Edmonton's number one source for all things sports here on Sports 1440. As man, we're going to ramp it up coming up for the playoffs beginning. Well, technically on Saturday will be the first games in the NHL playoffs. The Edmonton Oilers, unless there's a last minute change, expect the Oilers to get going on Monday. And actually, I'm very confident it's going to be on Monday. And then it sounds like Monday and Thursday, which means they probably want the Oilers on Saturday night. The next, so it could go Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, or Monday, Thursday, Saturday. Either way, I don't know why people get that upset about one extra day off. It's going to happen. I was looking back last year. There's an extra day off in the Vegas series. There was an extra day off at times between the game and the LA series. It's like, hey, man, building availability has something to do with it. TV schedule has a lot to do with it. It's Gregor, Connor Halley with you. You can always text us at 833-401-1440 in our inbox. Lots going on, man. We got a loaded show for you today. Quite like it. Let's go in the room now. Brought to you by Next Gen Transportation, a heavy haul transport provider, 100% locally owned and operated, and huge supporter of numerous youth sports teams and lots of local charities. I love giving back to the community. It's very important. NextGenTransportation.com. As we welcome to the show, TR to step out for a bit. He'll be back, so we'll be chirping him when he gets back. But Stanley Cup champion, ace analyst on the NHL Network, was doing the Penguins games. Unfortunately, won't be doing any more this year because the Penguins missed the playoffs. And Rupper, man, it was an exciting week. Obviously, a disappointing end for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But I give the Islanders credit. These other teams kind of lost their way out of the playoffs, whereas the Islanders won their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, all of the teams, so there's 5 teams in that Eastern Conference. I'm going to put the Flyers in there, even though the Flyers were in that 3rd spot in the Metro for a long time. There was 5 teams that kind of didn't do themselves any favors, got themselves in a bit of a predicament. But when it needed to happen, the Islanders were the team that kind of made it happen, and they got it done, even though they really didn't have a great year in a lot of different regards. But here they are. They got a chance to represent that franchise in the playoffs. We'll see what they end up doing, but their goaltending, their goaltending is going to have to be very solid. I think the last couple starts here, Sorokin's looked like himself once again, so that should help them out. But I mean, I think you'll probably see both goalies in that series, Varlamov and Sorokin, just because. They're going to lose a game. I mean, I don't pick them to win this series, and you're probably just going to try to switch up the mojo because, Varley's been so great, but Sorokin's your franchise goaltender.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the thing, right? Like for game one, don't you, even though Varlamov just played the most important game to get in, you're still going with Sorokin in game one? Like, I think you have to. I looked at his last 4 starts. He's back to .920. Like, don't you have to go with him? Or the fact that Patrick went with Varlamov in that big must-win game, maybe that's telling us something.
It's a great question. I would probably, I'm thinking they might go Varley. I think that Varlamov might get that starting game one. And the reason why I say that is Varley, he's earned it, but at the same rate, I don't know. I always look at like the psyche behind it, where I think it's easier to go from Varley back to Sorokin than it would be from Sorokin to start the series back to Varley. Because then that'll basically be twice that Ilya Sorokin has kind of, in some regards, lost his net. And that's the guy that you need to have the mindset, the confidence of being, like, let's be honest. If the Islanders are going to do anything, they're going to have out of this world goaltending. Yeah. And so I'd rather go Varley, see if you can catch magic in a bottle. If it doesn't happen, then you go to Sorokin, you say, all right, this is why you're the big boy. Let's see if you can kind of run the table.
Yeah, and you know what? That makes sense because we saw it in Washington a few years ago with Holtby, and then we even saw it with Bobrovsky last year for Florida, right? And both of those teams ended up going all the way. Yeah. Now the Islanders, I don't think, are in the same category. I'm like honestly, I think like Carolina has been an absolute beast here ever since they got Jake Gensel. Like they were good before, but it's kind of ratcheted up. Like the Islanders, yeah, honestly, they're going to have their goalie steal them a game. Otherwise, I just don't see how they can really compete with Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina. So the way I kind of see the series playing out, if the regular season is any indication, and sometimes teams are able to flip a switch, and sometimes other teams, flipping a switch would be a positive thing, or whatever the heck the opposite of that is, if it's turning the switch off or whatever. Sometimes you see teams just unable to find their start or their groove early on in a playoff series. But I expect this series to be pretty lopsided. The ice will be tilted as far as gameplay. But I mean, most Carolina games, that's how they play. Right. They get a lot of shot volume. They control a lot of numbers in the game, but it doesn't always result to wins for them. So I think that's where the goaltending is going to come in. Timely goal scoring by the Islanders. They're going to have a little bit of. They're going to have to play a little bit of rope-a-dope. I mean, they're gonna be on their heels in this series. So we'll see if they can get their save at the right time and the goal at the right time.
Mike Rupp joins us here on Sports 1440. Rupper, the Rangers taking on the Capitals, man. The Washington Capitals, just when you think they're out, Charlie Lindgren's playing every game down the stretch here for them. They shut out Boston. Then they get the win the next night, as Ovechkin says, thank you, Philly. And just like a crazy turn of events where the Flyers, you know what, if somebody was on, like, there is technology, like text somebody in the building maybe to say, hey, we don't have to pull our goalie right now. Like, I know it wouldn't have mattered for them, but basically eliminated Detroit from the playoffs when they pulled their goalie.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I kind of felt it took me a little while, to be honest with you, Greg's, to figure out what everybody was kind of talking about on social, because I'm thinking to myself, Philly had one objective and one objective only. They needed 2 points in regulation. So,
yes,
and you heard Torts kind of mention that afterwards. Like, I mean, that was the right play there. And I understand where fans would maybe get upset, but, I don't know. Then I also think that doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, there's no guarantee that, that game, it doesn't mean if 3 minutes go by and Philly does not score, that game goes in over. There's still a lot of things that have to fall in your way. And I just think that when you're looking at these teams, and I think it's important for fan bases too. And, I was hearing, I think Eric Carlson had great comments out of Pittsburgh after last night's game, the kind of meaningless game against the Islanders. We got no one to blame but ourselves. That's the mindset all those teams have to take. There's not one thing, one play, one game, one situation. I mean, it was a roller coaster ride, and one team got it done. The other four, they didn't. And I don't know. It was a weird, it was a crazy turn of events that ended up happening. No, it was bouncing back and forth between games and trying to stay up to date on it. And the fact that it was all right around the same time is pretty incredible.
Yeah, well, you look at it, the Detroit Red Wings, they didn't have to pull their goalie. You didn't have to lose 6 in a row after you'd won 7 in a row either. That might have may not have changed things after that. Do you think Patrick Kane goes back to Detroit?
Man, it's interesting. I've always felt like with Patrick Kane that he would go to Buffalo if Buffalo,
was competitive.
Without being rude, if Buffalo was any good, right? Or not, I don't want to say any good.
No, but competitive. I totally agree.
If they had a chance to do something, to be frank, I was kind of surprised he went to Detroit. I didn't think Detroit was at the point of, being a contender. I like what they've done. They grew. I mean, next year, I kind of said it this year, but at least they played that meaningful hockey right down to the last game. But I mean, next year you got to have results, man. Like, it's time. It is time in Detroit. I mean, I could see him going back there. I don't think that Patrick Kane's the type that's going to want to bounce around. I think right now what's going on in Buffalo, I think I would take them out of the equation. I think I could see him going back there. I think they would love to have him back. I mean, this is a team that showed a lot of guts down the stretch, but they needed to be better at different stages of this season. And we'll see what that group can do next year.
Mike Rupp joins us here on Sports 1440. Rupper, you look in that Atlantic division. I think the Atlantic division is going to be the most difficult one to predict. You have Florida and Tampa, and then you have Boston and Toronto. I could make an argument for all 4 teams and why they could end up winning and being the team in the Final Four. Do you have a team that you think is clearly better in their first round matchup? Do you see them as a pick 'em? How do you see these two matchups?
I think you nailed it. I have no idea. I see a world where all these teams win. You know what I mean? Like I can imagine. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if I had to pick right now, I feel like I have this inclination that Tampa's going to beat Florida. I don't even know why. I don't know. Like Florida down the stretch started to look a little more human. Tampa, the way they've kind of gotten going, and the thing that's always scared me with Tampa, they've got the individuals at different positions, forward, defense, goalie, that can take over a game, take over a series. And that's always been the X factor for them. I don't love the build of the team more than I like the Florida Panthers. I just think that they've kind of got that they've got those X factors. I just have a feeling that they're going to win that series. And then I don't know. There's part of me, and I'm teetering. I go back and forth on this because I'm the culprit of the last couple of seasons of saying that the Boston Bruins are going to take a step back. And every time I say that, they don't. They take a step forward. They're much better. And I say to myself, you idiot, like you did it again. But here we are. Like I like the Bruins. I think they've earned everything this year. They've been very impressive how they've played and how they've adapted this year.
Yeah.
But I just have a feeling that Toronto is going to win that series. I don't know why. I think that at some point, the center ice, although Charlie Coyle's been awesome, Pavel Zacha moving around and playing different position, he's been great. At some point, the center ice position is going to rear its head, and I think it's going to happen in this series.
So you like Toronto and Tampa in that. So I actually have Toronto and Florida. So like Florida, I think they learned lots about themselves. Obviously, Aaron Ekblad's health will be an issue, but
yeah, that's a big.
And I agree. I agree with you on Tampa Bay. Like Kucherov's having an unbelievable season, right? Like he's only the third player ever to have 40 goals and 100 assists in a season. The only guys do that is Gretzky and Lemieux. McDavid hasn't done 40 and 100 assists. That's how good of a season Kucherov is having. And it's, despite some people trying to say it's a power play guy, whatever, he's only has 6 more points in the power play than Nathan McKinnon. He's good at 5-on-5. He just is. And he's good on the power play. They got Point, they got Stamkos, Hedman. Like I think that's going to be an absolute battle. I think we're going to have a few games where there's multiple tilts. Rupper, I think both of those teams, man, they got a lot of physical guys. I think that's going to be it. That might be the most entertaining series of the first round.
It's going to be a slugfest. I firmly believe that. And here's the other prediction I think I have with it. I think it's going to be very similar if you remember Eastern Conference Finals of 2 years ago. The New York Rangers had the series. They were up 3-1, weren't they, if I recall? Yep. And if you've got a team like Tampa and you've got them in a position 3-1, 2-0, whatever it is, you have to finish them off. You've got to lay the knockout punch, because what ends up happening, and here's what I see. I can actually see a world where Florida comes out and Florida wins the first 2 games. But if you let them hang around, the Vasi effect, it comes into play. Vasi did it to the New York Rangers. That's a dangerous, dangerous position to be in. Plus, all those things you mentioned. Kucherov's year has been incredible. The Norris Trophy conversation, I don't think that Victor Hedman's gotten enough talk and at least recognition in that. Braden Point in all of the NHL, and you're talking about the last number of years in the playoffs, might be the best playoff performer of everybody in the league as far as what his numbers, if you go look at his goals scored in the playoffs. Steven Stamkos looks like he's on a mission right now. He wants that contract. I think he's pissed off he hasn't gotten it yet. He's shooting BBs out there. I mean, this is a dangerous, dangerous team. So we'll see. If someone gets them early on in the series, you got to beat them. If you let them hang around, the later any of these series go, I think Tampa's going to come out on top.
Rupper, great stuff, man. We will chat with you next week. We'll have some playoff series already started, 1-2 games in some of those series. So it should be a fun run, man. Quickly, Dallas, Edmonton, Vegas, LA. Any matchups of those you want to see? We'll find out exactly who it is. But do you want to see Edmonton, Vegas, Edmonton, LA, Dallas, Vegas? Who do you want?
I want to see Edmonton, LA. Edmonton, LA, excuse me, is we'd see it 3 times now in a row, right? Yeah. Is that what the number is now? Yeah. 3 consecutive years. I want to see what LA's learned, what they're able to apply, kind of see where things are at. And I want to see, I think it is very, 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 very difficult for a team to beat a team 3 consecutive times in round 1. And then Edmonton's going to have a tough battle against them. I think it would, I love seeing matchups time and time again in the playoffs, dislike, a little hatred. I think that series would bring it. That's the one I'm kind of hoping for.
Awesome. Rupper, great stuff, my man. We will chat with you next week.
Awesome. Enjoy, Greg's. Talk to you, man.
There you go. That's Mike Rupp from the NHL Network. Longtime NHLer, Stanley Cup winner. I really like having Rupp on. He's got good insight. I do think that Florida game, it's going to be awesome. Like, what do they call it? Alligator Alley? Well, there'll be a few games where they're in the back alleys there. They got some guys on both teams. Like, I think Gadjevich and Jeannot will end up having an absolutely epic tilt at some point in that series. 420, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you. Terry Ryan will join us next. We also got Jimmy Murphy. We'll set them things up, man. The Bruins and the Leafs. Again, I like it. Is this the best opportunity for Toronto? Can they finally slay the dragon? And will the Bruins actually rotate their goaltenders? Did they learn anything from last year? We'll find out next on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Let's break down the McDonald's Quarter Pounder BLT.
27. Welcome back. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440. Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook. Was TR to get lost? The rain to get washed away? The rain in that heart out there? Oh no, there he is. Now he's back.
Yeah.
It
is raining.
A lot of people were wondering if they're still laughing about the story about take your clothes off. They're like, was TR sure he was in the scouts room?
Exactly. We could go a lot of places with that one.
Yeah.
But you could better believe it, man. It was right next to the bed. If you zoomed out, you could have seen the bed was next to my right leg.
Different times, man. Different times, I would think, for sure. So hey, we'll see how it goes. A lot of fun. Let's go around the NHL, brought to you by McDonald's. And hey, stop at all of you coffee guys. I know you love your coffees at McD. I've never had coffee, but everybody raves about the coffee. I'm more of a McChicken. Chicken McNuggets. I highly recommend the double cheeseburger, no onions. Very, very good combination. And also the right now they have the bacon quarter pounder. It's very good, limited time. With the 100% Canadian beef only at McDonald's. And we continue on talking about a lot of the matchups. We don't know who the Oilers are going to play yet. We know they're playing Colorado tonight, but that doesn't impact anything. It comes down to the LA and Vegas games. If Vegas wins, then it'll be Edmonton and Vegas. If Vegas loses in any form, overtime or not, and LA wins, then it'll be the Kings, because the Kings own the tiebreaker against Vegas. So that's how simple it is tonight. Vegas wins. They play first, a half an hour start before LA. So they should know probably about a half an hour, maybe even earlier, depending on what the score in the game is. Oiler fans, you'll definitely know tonight by probably at the latest 10:30 who their first round opponent is going to be. Jimmy Murphy joins us from Boston as the Bruins and the Maple Leafs. They did again. Jimmy, I saw people say the Bruins lost on purpose to Washington and Ottawa just so they could get Toronto. I don't really think that's the case, but I love the rivalries. There's clearly one. Bruins fans probably got to be confident and happy. But my main question, Jimmy, will the Bruins continue to do what made them successful in the regular season, and that's rotate their goalies a little bit more, or are they going to ride with one guy come postseason?
Well, first of all, thank you for getting me even more starving than I am talking about bacon and double cheeseburgers. And, God bless you. I'm going to have to run down to McDonald's right after this. But, look, the gut feeling I get is yes. Just talking to people within the organization for the last few weeks, it's interesting because a month and a half ago, or maybe less than a month ago, right before they went up to Montreal for their last game against the Canadiens of the year, leading into St. Patrick's Day weekend. So I think it was about March 14th was the game. That week, Montgomery was on record as saying, "Hey, we might go with a goalie here, ride him a few games, see how it goes. Maybe wonder, is this what we want to do in the playoffs? We just want to give it a try." But he never did that. It just all of a sudden it just never happened. And I think part of that was just how good Linus Ullmark was going since the trade deadline. And they're probably thanking their lucky stars that they did not trade him as they tried to do. That worked out to be a blessing in disguise. But, that went away, and they just kept rotating them. And the more I talk to people, I think that's the plan going in. They're not saying it. Don Sweeney talked to us today. He said, "Yeah, we know the plan, but we're not telling you." But I think they're going to do that. And, I hear people say, well, what happens now if, let's say Swayman starts game one and he makes 49 saves and gets a 3-0 shutout. How do you go away from that? Well, you just go away from it the same way you did in the regular season.
Yeah.
And if Ullmark comes in and he gets a win, then you keep going. But I think if Ullmark was to come in a situation like that, following a brilliant performance with Swayman, and then completely drop it and get lit up, then I don't know, maybe that changes. But I think going in as we speak, that this is the plan, that they will go with a rotation. Who the game one goalie will be, I don't know. I would, if you're basing it on recency bias, as I said, Ullmark's been amazing since the trade deadline. He's been the better goalie by a slight margin. But the only thing I would say for Jeremy Swayman that's going in his favor is he has been lights out against the Toronto Maple Leafs. 3-0-0 this season. He's been absolutely brilliant against them. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I do think the rotation is the game plan for now.
What about the matchup down the middle? Who's going to face Austin Matthews?
Well, I think that's a bigger question mark than the goalies, to be honest, guys.
Okay.
I really do. Because I think, look, and this is nothing to take away from Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha and the job they've done trying to fill the giant shoes of Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. They've had to deal with that narrative the whole season. It's still going. It's going to ramp up again as we go into this playoff series. They've done a brilliant. They've been great. I mean, they've done their job. They will never be Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. They know that. We know that. The team knows that. But they've done their job. They've done what's been asked of them. But I think, in a perfect world, Charlie Coyle is your 2C, and I'd say Pavel Zacha is your 3C, and maybe the Bruins succeed in getting Elias Lindholm, as they tried to do twice on the trade market, once when he was with the Flames and again when he was with the Canucks heading into the deadline, and he came in and was your number one center right there. I would say you put Charlie Coyle up there just because he's a better defensive forward than Pavel Zacha. He's proven he can play on the power play, the PK, what have you. I would say he's the key there, but I think another key, not to veer away from the center question, but another key to shutting down Austin Matthews is going to be on your blue line, and that's going to be Brandon Carlo. I wrote about that today, and I think he's a huge X factor if he stays healthy in this series. The Bruins have not had the benefit of him being healthy in many years now in the playoffs. For some reason, this guy's just got a lot of hard luck, whether it's been in the games leading into the playoffs where he gets injured or whether it's been early in the first round. He's ended up in the press box, hurt and unable to play. But when he's healthy, he's effective, and this has been his most effective season ever. He's done really well against Matthews this season. So I think when it comes down to it, he's kind of the X factor that nobody's talking about.
Jimmy, good to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah, good to talk. Hey, Terry, what's going on, buddy?
Oh yeah, man, I'm back. You know that I don't ever go too long. Every few months I pop up like a bad coin in your life. It's just always, I'm omnipresent.
God bless you, man. Good to hear your voice, my friend.
You too, brother. Listen, in Bruins, in Boston, I'm curious, do they look at it like I think Toronto would consider Boston maybe their number one rivalry at the moment? Is it similar to that? And you hear about Toronto being under the gun and all this pressure and the most pressure to go the furthest. But the Bruins dropped the ball after an unbelievable season, to say the least, last season in the first round. So A, is that sense of rivalry there with the Bruins? And B, if you're in and around Boston, is there just as much pressure on the Bruins as there is on Toronto?
It's good. Two great questions. So I'll start with A, and you're a mind reader, Terry, because as you guys called, I'm writing a story. Brad Marchand today actually spoke about the Leafs and Bruins rivalry surpassing the Bruins Canadiens as of now, because since 2013 they've played them 3 times. They only played the Canadiens once. All 3 series have gone to 7 games. Of course, 2013 with the epic Game 7 comeback with Patrice Bergeron. And then they played them in 18 and 19. And the Bruins have won all of them, but they've been great competitive series. When they play each other in the regular season, there's a buzz, whether you're up in Toronto, whether you're in Boston, there's a buzz in and around the building. So I kind of agree with them. And I hate that because, growing up, the Bruins Canadiens is the thing for me. And I want to see that that fire get lit again between those two teams. And I think it could be in the next couple of years because I think the Canadiens are coming. But as for your second question, in terms of the pressure, that's a great question because I think there's 2 different ways you can look at it. Within the team and, for us around the team and cover them every day, coming into the season, guys, we kind of looked at it like, hey, last year, Don Sweeney went all in at the trade deadline. They went all out to get one more cup. They kind of knew Bergeron and Krejci were going to retire. They wanted to get those guys one more before they hung them up. And it didn't work. And it went wrong in epic fashion. And then this year they come in, they're really hard against the cap. Sweeney goes out, he gets a lot of 1 or 2 year deals. He takes some chances on some castaways from different teams, but it all pans out. And a huge credit, I got to say, to their pro scouting staff for that. And then I look at Jim Montgomery too. I think, he got the Jack Adams last year, but he'll tell you himself, he didn't have to coach that team. I mean, Patrice Bergeron was basically their Reggie Dunlop, the player coach. He was an extension of the coaching staff, and he had so much skill and talent in that team. It is what it is, and it didn't work out. This year, he's had to coach a lot more, and I think he's done an amazing job. And so I don't know if, you look at it like, okay, this was a transition year. They're going to have $25 million in cap space potentially this offseason. Then they can go out and really build a good team again. They go out, if they're out in 1 or 2 rounds, so be it. Hey, they had a better year than they thought. You can look at it that way. But the other thing is, I think now that you're playing the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round, it is going to get magnified again. And then all the talk as you get into this series is going to be about them choking last year. And, if you choke against the Leafs, who you basically own, the Leafs haven't beaten them since 1959 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, everybody will always go back to 2013. If they lose to the Leafs, it's not going to be good here. But sorry to ramble on, guys, but I'll just tell you the one thing and this is why I'm leaning towards the Leafs in this a bit, guys, because I'm looking at it from the Leafs perspective, and growing up in Boston, being a Red Sox fan and having the Yankees break my heart so many damn times. What I saw happen in 2004 is what I think would be like for Toronto and their fans if they beat the Bruins here. And I think that could really, really catapult the Leafs in this series.
Yeah, I think it's fair. And Bruins fans know something about always losing to the same team. They couldn't beat the Canadiens save their life. I can't remember what,
exactly.
For 17 series or something, just ridiculous.
Yeah,
now, granted,
35 years.
Yeah. Now that was in the original 6, so you met each other all the time. But still, it's a weird thing to see where that series goes. Give me your thoughts quickly though on the Florida Tampa. You see those teams lots. Who do you like in that series?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I was texting with Jack Edwards, because as you guys know, he just retired.
Yep.
And after the news came across the wire there, he's retired. I texted him and said, hey, congratulations, whatever. And him around. We're actually going to have him on our podcast I do with Pierre McGuire tomorrow called The Eye Test. And, he was saying, man, did I get blessed? I mean, I get to call the Leafs Bruins in my last, playoff series that I do. So he's all psyched about that. But then he said, you know what else I'm psyched about is all the different series that we have in the Eastern Conference, specifically Florida, Tampa Bay, because as he pointed out, it's an underrated rivalry. It's a growing rivalry, in-state rivalry. They've had some wars the last 2 times they played each other. So I think that's a 7-game series written all over it, guys. And I think Tampa might upset them there, man. I mean, you get Vasilevsky in the zone, you never know. So I think that's going to be a great series. It's something, if I can, and they're not playing head-to-head, which I feel they might be a little too much, but if they're not playing head-to-head all the time, I'm going to be watching that series for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jimmy, thanks so much, man. We'll talk to you throughout the playoffs. Appreciate your time. See you, buddy.
All right. Good to hear your voice, Terry.
You too.
That's Jimmy Murphy, a longtime reporter out of Boston. Bruins. He's actually going with the Leafs. Boston guy who thinks it's the Leafs' time. And, I agree with him. That matchup on Austin Matthews, they don't have Patrice Bergeron anymore, TR. That is a huge, huge difference from the previous series. Lots of other guys, but there's none bigger than that. And, obviously I know that, there's lots of people in Toronto saying, hey, Nylander's got to pick up his game here. Hasn't played great down the stretch. I think that's fair. But ultimately, you look at Austin Matthews the last 3 games. I only scored 1 goal. He had 25 shots. He's shooting everywhere, and they were trying to get him the goal, and I get it. But I agree. I think this is Toronto's. If Toronto can't beat him this year, then I don't think they're ever going to beat him.
I agree. Now, listen, though. Here's something I was thinking about. In recent history, if you're going to talk 2013 with the recent rivalry and all that, as we just spoke about, Boston has usually had the team to kind of lure Toronto in and kind of intimidate them. But it's really, I don't know, I'm going to say it's fully flipped. But Toronto are best equipped with those intense kind of playoff performing gritty guys. They do have more than normal, and Ryan Reeves is probably going to play, and you could make an argument he's the toughest around. Now, do you think that script is going to change, or you think Boston's going to do the same thing, and like Marchand is going to do his thing? Even earlier this year, Marchand was doing his thing. He hit someone in the, I think he put Liljegren out. No one did anything. Like, do you think that's going to be Boston's angle, or are they just going to play? They do own the season series. Are they just going to do what they're going to do?
Yeah, like I think they'll try to be physical, but I don't know if they'll necessarily go out of their way. Toronto, they've got lots more bite than they've had. Max Domi, Bertuzzi plays hard, McKay plays hard. Obviously, Reeves is super tough, although he left last game, so we'll see what his health is like. Yeah. But I think Boston, to me, if you're the Bruins, you just want to get up early in the series, make Toronto doubt themselves again. Right. That's what you want to instill. If you can do it physically, I expect them to be physical, but I don't actually think Boston man for man is necessarily that much more physical of a team than the Toronto Maple Leafs. Right. So I think Joel Edmondson adds a lot of punch. That Benoit kid on the back end, man. Oh, he's a great guy to watch play. He's just like an old school gamer, right? Just very physical, hits hard. So I just think Toronto's got way more tenacity than they've had in the past. And, I said it before a few weeks ago. I said, Toronto would much rather play Boston in round one than Florida. And so we'll see if it pans out or not. It's Jason Gregor, Terry Ryan with you on Sports 1440. We'll come back. We got 5 questions, spec and more on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Heavy hauling in the worst
Welcome back. Thursday afternoon, it's game day, the final day of the regular season, the National Hockey League. Of course, NBA play-in playoffs began. Oh, just another reminder why the NBA play-in format sucks. So you had a 49-win Pelican team, 49 wins. They have to play the stupid play-in. Guess what? They get a guy hurt. Now they're probably done. And then you look at Miami. Chicago was what? 10 games behind them. Miami's 8th place. They're 10. They had 46 wins. The 9th place team is 10 games back. Jimmy Butler gets injured. It's probably done. Now they're going to have to play Chicago without him. They might beat Chicago in a game. But are they going to beat anybody of the top teams? No. I'm sorry. The play-in is the worst. It's manufactured, fake excitement. Yeah, I get that people watch. It doesn't mean it's better. It's not better. It doesn't make your product better long term. So I will rue the day that the NHL goes to it. They probably will, but I'm just warning you in advance. It won't be that good. Let's Tara, what do you think? Are you a fan of the play-in? Do you want the play-in in the NHL?
To be quite honest with you, it's unnecessarily. I don't long for it. I guess there's something to be said about those markets, but we could say that you could let 30 teams in if you want. I mean, where do you draw the line? Half the league gets into the playoffs.
Exactly.
And I think it's starting to get, when there was 21 teams, that's a little different. But I respect that it's hard to get in hockey. There's something to be said for that. You know, like the Baseball Hall of Fame, they say is the hardest to get into, and I really respect that. I'd rather them leave that where it is than get more and more people in. It's largely similar to hockey. I like the fact that, you know, all this is happening on the last days of the season. If there was a play-in, it probably wouldn't be as exciting, and the teams getting in, it'd probably get knocked off anyway.
I totally agree. Let's get to 5 questions brought to you by The Brick, where right now you can get 25% off Canadian-made sofas, love seats, chairs, sectionals, and recliners at The Brick and thebrick.com.
It's time for 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show.
All right, guys. Question number 1, game 82 of 82 for the Oilers. We assume some star power will be out of the lineup. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you care? How much attention will you be playing to this one's game?
I'll say make it a 0 to 10, not 1 to 10. I'm going to go 0.5. Just in case. I guess I'll look later to make sure no one gets injured. Whatever the score is, I won't remember in the morning.
Well, I always like watching McKinnon, man. I think he's a hell of a player. So that's intriguing to me. But as far as the result, no. Edmonton's not going to play a lot of their guys. Fogle got his 20th goal last night. So there's not really like even a milestone for anybody to really be chasing on Edmonton. There is for McKinnon to get 2 points for 140, which is really hard to do. So yeah, I'll go I'll be realistic. I'll go like a 2.5 just because I like watching McKinnon.
All right. Question number 2, in honor of the Coyotes being done, officially moving to Utah, who would you say are your top 3 Coyotes of all time?
Go ahead, Greggs.
Top 3 Coyotes. Well, I'm going to go Teppo Numminen. Shane Doan, in no order. Obviously, Shane Doan. And I'm going to go Mike Smith because he was there when they actually won a few playoff rounds.
Definitely Shane Doan went 1 pick ahead of me in the draft. We were pretty close way back in the day. I haven't talked to him in a while, but one day I'm sure I will. Jeremy Roenick, just loved him all around as a player, everything on and off the ice. Not everything, but most things I like about Roenick. And I'm going to go with my buddy who I spoke about earlier, Damon Lankow. Really underrated. People forget how good Lanks was. And even though it was only like 58 or 59 points one year, he did lead the Coyotes in scoring. And I think he had, he played 3 years there, close to a point a game. I'll go with my buddy Lanks.
Question number 3. Interim head coach Jacques Martin will move to an advisor role with the Ottawa Senators as they look for a new head coach. Speaking of that, who do you think should be the next head coach of the Ottawa Senators?
I see no reason why it couldn't be Jay Woodcroft. I don't think that, I know he got ran out of town. I know there was a reason and everything, but the reason I think were more analytics, and I think people liked him. I think he was a good coach, maybe even a great one, and I think he could work with some of the younger players on either Buffalo or Ottawa in a meaningful way.
Like Steve Staios was in Edmonton with Woodcroft, and I felt like, I know they brought in Jacques Martin. I kind of feel like they missed the opportunity. Look at Vancouver. You bring in the coach. They had all year. They kind of wasted it. You bring in a coach. You had all 4 months to implement what he wanted. The players know. Now there's no questions. They go over the summer. They come in next year. Boom, we're off and running. Now they're going to have to come in and learn it. So because Ottawa didn't hire him then, I don't think they're going to now. Buffalo, I think Buffalo's looking to get a little bit more of a hard-ass coach. I'm not sold that is Woodcroft, but both of those teams, I think, would be high on the list of a lot of coaches, right? Because they both got talent. So it's a good question, Cons. I don't know if I'll say this about Ottawa. I don't think Ottawa is gonna. I think Ottawa is gonna go in and bring in a guy who might not necessarily be, like a retread NHL coach. That's what. I think John Gruden. Keep your eyes out on John Gruden. That's the guy I think who's currently coaching the Marlies.
Question number 4 for you guys. Just had Jimmy Murphy on the show. What do you think should be the Bruins' game plan between the pipes as they head into the postseason?
Not run one guy. Neither one does it all year. Why would you do it now? So I would, and now it doesn't have to be a 1-1-1 or anything like that, but I'm not playing one guy the entire series if I'm Boston.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I like this question comes up a lot. Even Henrik Lundqvist put him number 6 of 8 in the Eastern Conference because they have 2. I guess people's thinking is ride one guy. To me, this is what we have as an advantage. Let's use it. Both guys are very reliable. I don't care if someone wins 2 or 3 in a row. You always need a reason to rest here and there in the playoffs, and they've got 2 dynamite goalies. I would take full advantage of that if I was Boston.
Final question for you guys today. It is apparently National Velociraptor Day or Awareness Day. Don't know exactly what it means, but if you had to pick your favorite dinosaur of all time, what would it be?
It's unbelievable there's all these days, by the way. I mean, now if there's a Velociraptor Day, that means there's 8 million other things. There's a car tire day. There's a blade of grass day. There's a rabbit day. I don't really know, a gray horned owl day. But whatever.
Maybe there should be like a draft pick day.
Yeah, but there's draft picks around. Velociraptor Day. Okay, I can see it in the Cretaceous period, 186 million years ago. But what are we doing? I suppose, do we have a Big Bang Day too?
Yeah.
How about a Jupiter's Moons Day?
Well,
anyway.
There is a few Big Bang Days, but not in the reference you're thinking.
True, Big Bang Nights, for the most part. Okay. I love dinosaurs, and one dinosaur that doesn't get enough credit is Gigantosaurus. It was bigger. So for some reason, Tyrannosaurus Rex, T-Rex, lives on, and the Brontosaurus. But there's Allosaurus. There's Gigantosaurus, which was bigger than the T-Rex and did pretty much the same thing. But I think it was in South America, and for some reason, it's not studied as much. But my favorite is actually a herbivore. And the reason is because it's called the Ankylosaurus.
Oh, come on. Are you serious?
It's called the Ankylosaurus, and I'll tell you why. I did a science project in grade 9 on this. And I'm telling you, the Ankylosaurus ate plants, but it shielded himself like a porcupine, but it had a big coat of armor, but its tail had a club on the end.
It's unreal.
It would club. Yeah, so even though it only ate plants, it would take out huge, sometimes Tyrannosaurus type dinosaurs because it had this club on the end and it would just whack predators over the head and over wherever. But it was a major form of defense that I think goes unnoticed for some reason in the dinosaur world. It's a really cool dinosaur.
Dude, I can't. So I've been to Jurassic Forest Dinosaur Park out by Gibbons. I don't know if you've ever been there, TR. So when my son was younger, he loved it. So we went out there quite often. And as he got older, we would stop and at the first few times he would just run through. But obviously as we got older, then I would read everything. And honestly, I love that they have an Ankylosaurus there. It's unreal.
Really? So you knew what I was talking about. That is wild.
That's why I was yelling. I'm like, oh, come on. Because that was my favorite. I couldn't believe you stole it. It was so funny. Ankylosaurus, man. Are you kidding me? I love it. So I'd never really seen it either until there. I recommend to anybody this summer, if you have young kids, I highly recommend Jurassic Forest Dinosaur Park because they've got the they move, they got the sounds. They're pretty awesome. They're pretty big too. So like, when you're 3 and 4, they're massive. Even for a human, like an adult, they look pretty good. So, but I will say if I'm going to go, the other one, not that it was there a lot, but it's kind of fitting. But I'm going to go with the Utah Raptor, right? And it was it's kind of Mongolian. It was a little bit smaller, but it's like a Velociraptor, but it kind of almost has the T-Rex head. It has a small body and a big head. It's kind of like Bronte. So in honor of Brownlee, I'll go with the Utah Raptor.
Nice picks.
Yeah, but the Ankylosaurus, it's unreal. I can't believe you picked that. That's so awesome.
I cannot believe you're the first person that ever knew what I was talking about when I said it. But the reason is because for some reason you hear about all these dinosaurs, you see movies, and I just never seen one. And that was in grade 9, and it still sticks with me. And you still don't see it a lot.
Yeah. Oh God, no, you don't really see it around very much at all. So I love it. TR, give me your picks in the East in those 4 rounds that we know. The Rangers taking on Wash, Carolina and the Islanders, and then Toronto, Boston, Florida, Tampa. Who do you like?
Rangers, Carolina, Toronto, and Florida is what I have picked. Now, who knows what will happen? It's always a crapshoot, but that's what I have picked so far. So we'll knock on wood.
And Colorado, Winnipeg.
Colorado, Winnipeg. Okay, I got Winnipeg. That's bias, and that's more personal bias, and so is the Toronto. I got a buddy that's the equipment manager in Toronto, but my heart went with Boston, but I want to see him do it.
Okay, and then Vancouver, Nashville.
I've got Vancouver in that one. Yeah, for good reason, not just because they're Canadian. I just think they're a better team.
I think they're a better team. No, that's fair. All right. Yeah. I always have to pick an upset because I know there's always an upset, and Nashville was the upset I picked. I don't even like it. But,
not a bad pick because at Vancouver, you can say anything. A lot of the best players are like real new to the playoffs, and they've never really. A lot of them, even the guys traded there, haven't gone on a run.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's I could totally see what you're saying there. As far as the Edmonton Oilers, and I've been wanting Vegas for 3 months. Like I just don't think they're the team that they used to be without Stoner. I mean, just you like analytics? Look at the analytics. You like the eye test? Either one to me says Vegas aren't the team they were, and Edmonton has improved. So. No team's easy, but I like that matchup.
Yeah, I'm with you. TR, have yourself a great weekend. We'll return. We'll be talking playoffs next week. Have fun.
I shall be in Yorkton, Saskatchewan tomorrow and the next day to speak at the annual sports dinner with Jeff Odgers. And then I will be in Toronto all next week. I shall be in a hotel at the Royal York. We're promoting Shoresy all week, but I'll see you on Tuesday during the show. And I'm also going to the Leafs' first home game in the playoff. So I'm really looking forward to next week.
Yeah. When was the last time did you go to Leafs playoff game last year?
No, I didn't. I would have. I was just got caught up. But usually, yeah, I will go if there's an Eastern team in Canadian, Toronto or Montreal in recent years. I will definitely fly up and see that. I usually do. I really, really, really enjoy the playoffs.
Oh, God, how can you not? I love it. Awesome. Yeah. Well, enjoy that, TR. We'll talk to you Tuesday.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Edmonton. And I'll catch you guys on the rebound in just a few days.
There you go. That's Terry Ryan. Joins us every Tuesday and Thursday here on Sports 1440. We'll come up back with Mark Spector. But first, let's get to the Con Man Sports 1440 update brought to you by your Alberta GMC dealers. Get up to $6,500 cash purchase credit on a 2024 Sierra 1500 Denali Ultimate during Truck Month. Check them out at gmcoffers.ca.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
Game day, the Edmonton Oilers in action tonight, taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Game 82, puck drop just after 7:30 for some pregame coverage. You got pre-gaming with Boardsy on the Oilers Nation YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter streams. Other games tonight, Wild host the Kraken, Canucks take on the Jets, Sharks in Calgary, Golden Knights up against the Ducks and the Blackhawks in Los Angeles. Major League Baseball today, still to come. Cubs take on the Marlins, Diamondbacks in San Francisco. Some finals for you. Guardians getting past the Red Sox 5-4. There's the Rangers over the Tigers 9-7, and the Angels falling to the Rays 2-1. 2 games in the PWHL tonight as Boston hosting Toronto and Minnesota in Montreal. Those games get going in about 5 minutes. And off the ice, the NHL 28-year stay in the state of Arizona officially over. The NHL's Board of Governors voting unanimously today to approve the sale and relocation of the franchise to Salt Lake City for the start of next season. As part of the deal, ownership will be assumed by the Utah Jazz owners, Brian Smith. The team is expected to play out of the Delta Center, which is the current home of the Jazz. Coming up in hour 4 of the Jason Gregor Show, we will be joined by Mark Spector of Rogers Sportsnet and qualify another lucky person for the Here Comes the Sun giveaway. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and
I do have to address this because we were talking about this earlier. Welcome back. It is the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website where 100% of the revenue stays right here in the lovely province of Alberta at Play Alberta. So even if you lose, you win. Get some road work done, lots of other things. It's great. We were talking about the drum guy the other day and how we love drum guy, right? The pale guy plays the drums outside of Rogers. Well, some jabroni was, I don't know, got in some sort of little scuffle, and then he stole drum guy's buckets. Why? Why would you do that? I've never seen drum guy ever annoy anyone. I'd like to know who that guy is, because you know what you need to do, buddy? You need to look in the mirror and reevaluate, because the path that you're going down is not the right one. If you're going after drum guy, something's wrong. It's just that simple. It's not me, it's you. That's a you problem. I don't care what happened prior to it. It doesn't matter, but can't go after drum guy. Just sorry, doesn't happen. And watching the thing, drum guy wasn't even really doing anything. So, oh well. Anyway, let's get some bigger things. But hey, who doesn't like the drum guy? Any of you? I don't think so. Now, preacher guy, that's totally different. You got drum guy in one corner after the game everybody likes. You got preacher clown on the other corner before the game that nobody likes. Now, I'm not ever saying do anything to him, but if there was somebody who could get muzzled, like if you could put a muzzle on a person, that's the guy that should get muzzled. It's ridiculous. Absolutely. Like, it's to the point now where I'm tempted to just want to walk across the street when I come in and be like, what are you doing? Like, no one wants to listen to you. No one. You're not turning anybody to suddenly follow you, right? You're not a guy who is worth following anyway. And if you are, go get into a church. That's where the good preachers are. They're not on the street corner telling you, you shouldn't worship the hockey gods. That's what God is. Oh, my goodness. What an idiot. Anyway, let's get to the spec report brought to you by GS Construction. I'll tell you right now, there'll be there's no lecturing, there's no preaching, but it's a great company, the great benefits, and they're hiring right now. Go to Indeed.com and look up GS Construction. Lots of job pipe layers, pipe layer helpers, top men, top women, water and sewer foremen, some great gigs right now at Indeed.com for GS Construction. As Mark Spector joins us in Denver, Colorado for Game 82. Spec, will we see any of the Oilers' first unit power play dressed tonight?
That's a pretty good question. I don't think Bouchard's going to dress, and I don't think that McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins are going to dress.
Ekholm?
I don't think Ekholm's going to dress, no, but he's not on the first unit power play.
Right, fair point. Fair point.
So that's what I think. I know it's, the coach hasn't said anything, and he doesn't speak till 6 p.m., at which point he'll lay down his lineup, I'm sure. But I suspect that 97, 29, 93 don't play. There's probably a fourth guy. Is that going to be Hyman?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Is Kane ready to play? Yeah. I'm not sure. Let's figure all that out.
Yeah, McDavid and Draisaitl for sure. And I was like, well, Hyman or Nugent Hopkins, if one of them has to play because Kane can't play, I might make the case that Hyman should rest over Nugent Hopkins. He plays a little bit of heavier game.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I'll tell you what, no one played too heavy a game last night. The Oilers were throwing snow all over the place, man. Nobody was hitting anybody.
Well, it looked like a game where you're like, you know what, we don't want to get injured. Like Calvin Pickard after the game just said, hey, you know what, they wanted it more than us. Fogel said the same thing. And like, I know that you want to tell yourself, hey, let's be a professional. Let's try. I thought for the first 30 minutes they were okay, but Arizona just kind of slowly took that game over. You're right, it wasn't overly physical. And I understand why. It was probably more emotional. You're in the building. Like, what'd you get the sense of how it was in the building? Like, was it a little bit of a death march there?
No, no, it wasn't. It was a party, really. It really was. The building was a party. It didn't remind me. I wasn't in Winnipeg, but I remember the game when they played Detroit at the end of that season and lost, and it was over. And that was a funeral in that building. This was not a funeral.
Right.
It was like Jim Matheson said, it's like your favorite old hotel bar closing down. Everyone goes in there and gets after it for the night and has some fun, and then it's done. Really, it wasn't. It wasn't a sad, sad night. At the very end, they stayed on the ice, and people said their goodbyes. But there was a lot of energy, and the team provided a lot of energy. And we talked about this yesterday, man. The Oilers had no prayer of matching the juice and the energy and the purpose that Arizona brought to the table yesterday. You can't match that emotion when you got nothing to play for. So I saw that loss coming a million miles away. And if you're an Oilers fan that's freaking out about that game, you got to take a long look in the mirror. That game means nothing. Okay. It means nothing.
Yeah. And just honestly, Spec, it's probably going to be a repeat performance tonight. Like Colorado, I know they don't have a lot to play for. However, they've got their ass handed to them here by Vegas and Edmonton and Dallas and Winnipeg down the stretch. Their goaltenders, specifically Georgiev, he doesn't look like he's playing tonight. So I could see Nathan McKinnon, you've got the 140-point mark to chase for them. And I think they want to kind of go into Winnipeg with a little bit of confidence. So Edmonton's got nothing. And you mentioned a no-hitter. I could see this one being heavily favored in Colorado tonight.
Yeah, this is another one where you're right. There won't be the question to me is how much does Colorado really show up? How much, if they decide in their group and in their dressing room that this is a key game and we got to play and we got to win and this means a lot to us. I'm here. All I know is they're not saying that inside Edmonton's dressing room. That's not what they're saying. So that's an edge that Colorado can manufacture. I'm not positive, Jay, that they will manufacture it. I'm not sure, NHL guys, when there's nothing on the line, they tend to play like there's nothing on the line. But you know what? The only thing that matters tonight, Jason, might not happen till an hour after this game's over when we find out who the Oilers are going to play. That's what's going to matter. I'm going to a hockey game that I'm barely going to write about.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, no, it's going to be, who are the Oilers facing, and you would think it's going to be Vegas because they control their own destiny. They beat Anaheim, they come to Edmonton, but you never know, right? We'll see the Ducks. I guess maybe for those teams that have nothing to play for, maybe this is their one to say, hey, let's go out on a high here. I know their head coach is a guy who does really promote, in Pat Verbeek. They're going to try to get their guys to play hard, but man, I think it's going to be real tough sledding for either Anaheim or Chicago to get a win tonight.
Well, okay, but I want to say this. Anaheim and Chicago aren't Edmonton. They haven't earned anything.
No,
right?
I agree.
They're not Colorado. Anaheim damn well better come out and play hard because they actually do have something to play with here. They could screw it up for a division rival and give them something to go into the summer with here. Anaheim's got no laurels to sit on. They haven't earned nothing this year.
No.
Certainly Chicago hasn't either. So, You know what? I'm not telling you they're going to win because Anaheim's not a very good team and Chicago's worse and they're starting their backup, Soderblom.
Yeah.
But don't tell me that those Anaheim guys get to just go skate in circles for
No. I'm saying their coach is going to try to tell them to do it. I'm not sure. And first of all, they can play their best game and still lose. That's the problem.
They can. Absolutely. But Anaheim's beat a couple teams lately. So anyway, who knows how it's going to go. But the Kings game, interestingly starts a half hour later than the Vegas game. So there could be some drama there. I don't know, man. We're going to sit around and see. By the time that those games end, I'm going to be sitting, I don't know where I'll be writing, maybe in a pub, huh? How about that? They had me kicked out of the rink by then.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. Now I know it's a hard game to evaluate. What'd you make of Broberg last night?
First of all, they got a terrible break in the first goal of the game.
Oh, right? Yeah.
It's a dump in. They all turn around to chase a dump in. It hits the ref in the foot, and it goes into the middle of the slot, and Liam O'Brien scores. So that's a wash. That's a nothing goal. He was on for a second goal that came down Darnay's side of the ice. He had nothing to do with. I liked the way he rushed the puck. I guess what I saw, Jay, I always sort of work backwards on these things. If I see a young player who keeps the puck in his stick and starts to skate it, and he did a couple times last night, that tells me he's confident. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure we've ever really seen a confident Broberg. So if he's got confidence and he took the puck a couple times from below his own circles and carried it all the way to the top of the circle on the other end, and I haven't seen much of that from him. So that to me tells me there's a more confident player here. And now if he's confident, Jay, we can start to judge him as a player. How good are you? Where do you fit? What can you accomplish? When you're playing 4 minutes and you have zero confidence, it's not even fair to make a judgment on a guy. And that's pretty much been Broberg's career so far in Edmonton.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Mark Spector joins us live in Colorado. Spec, you look at, I don't know if you talked to the Avalanche players, but are they at all concerned in how they've played here down the stretch and their goaltending? Like Bednar came out after, and said, hey, we got to get better goaltending from Georgiev, and he's not going to go tonight. But, what do you make of them coming down the stretch? Like, I was looking at their numbers, and I actually wrote it today at Oilers Nation. I compared Makar and Taves to Bouchard and Ekholm. And if you look at all their numbers, dude, like, it really isn't close. The Oilers' top pair has been way better.
Yep.
Right? Like, they're 5-on-5, they're like plus 39 and plus 36. Cale Makar 5-on-5 is plus 7.
Yeah.
And that's playing with Nathan McKinnon for a lot of that.
Yeah, no, for sure. It hasn't been a good year for Cale Makar, right? It hasn't been a good year. He's getting some of his points, but he has not had a good year. Everybody here will tell you that. Georgiev is a coin flip goalie. He gets a lot of wins because he's on a really good team. But I think the thing that the one moment that causes me a lot of pause here is, Winnipeg came up here last week for a game, and it was for it was for home ice advantage really in this in their first round series, and that's something to play for. And if even if it's not a huge advantage, it's a matter of pride. Like, no one's going to break their rear end for home ice advantage, but when it's right in front of you and you're playing the team you're fighting with and they're coming into your barn, that's different, man. That's a point of pride and a point of, you learn something about your team. Well, they lost 7-0 at home to the Jets.
Yeah.
Like, that knocked me on my rear end when I saw that score. I couldn't believe that Colorado would let that happen in their own barn to a team they're meeting in a first round series like 10 days later. So that's a giant red flag. Like, that's a massive red flag. I don't know how that happens to a good team like Colorado, because they're a good team. But, I mean, Edmonton beat them for, 6-2. They were coming off a back-to-back, right? They've lost some games here. I guess they're going to have to flip the switch, Jay. They're going to have to flip the switch.
Yeah,
and you know how dangerous that is, thinking you're going to flip that switch, man. Sometimes that switch, it won't flip for you.
No, it's very true. Spec, are you going with the Brian Burke look tonight? You going to leave your tie untied?
No, I'll tie it eventually. I like to tie it as late as possible. Come on, man.
Come on. Just show up without the tie. That'd be awesome. Just show it up on time. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm a little sour at Brian Burke because I often would have a tie around my neck until I needed it. And now if you wear it, everyone thinks you're trying to look like Brian Burke. And the last guy, and now let me repeat this, the last guy I'm trying to look like out there is Brian Burke. Have you seen him? I don't want to look like Brian Burke. Now I got to tie my tie or people think I'm an imposter, for Pete's sakes.
Spec, enjoy the game tonight. And I know you'll be writing your story. Well, you can't even really write your game story because you don't even know who they play. So you'll have to wait a little bit.
The point is the game doesn't matter. Like, from a writer's standpoint, no one's waking up in the morning talking about, Terry Jones taught me this when I was a young kid. Write what they're talking about and thinking about when they wake up tomorrow, not tonight, right? Yeah. Not tonight. No one's waking up talking about this game tomorrow unless something crazy happens. They're all talking about the matchup. So I probably won't even put my fingers on the keyboard till about 11 o'clock out here.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, Spec, have fun at the game. We will chat with you tomorrow.
All right, Jay.
There you go. That's Mark Spector, the Spec Report, brought to you by GS Construction. 5:23, quick break. We'll come back. We'll get to the well, we don't really know the lineup, but I have a pretty good inclination. We'll get to that and more on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, live in the eWell studio, your local electrical distributor, where electrical and sports collide to add a little spark to the show every day, courtesy of eWell, EWEL.ca.
Ringing
28. Welcome back, Jason Gregor. Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook. And it's time now for Here Comes the Sun, brought to you by Action Electrical, one of our biggest giveaways we've had on the show. And I do always want to say Blake and them want to be a big shout out to Legacy Heating. They kind of spurred this on from their big donation for Help Your Neighbor. So they came up with this similar but a little bit different concept where they're going to gift away a huge prize. It's going to be a turnkey solar system for your home valued at up to $15,000. Okay, that includes the site assessment on your home, structural engineer and permitting costs, as well as the supply and installation of the solar system for your home. Now, here's a few things. So there's two avenues you can go. If you're our qualifier, you have to be a homeowner, or you can donate it to a homeowner. They have to, either your house or their house has to be within a 50-kilometer radius of Edmonton. All right. And also, you need shingles that are 12 years or newer. Why? Because if you put on the system and you got old shingles, then you're going to have to replace your shingles in a few years because your roof problem, well, that's going to cost you way more. So trying to think long-term and save for you. Okay. So those are the stipulations. For sure. You can see all the rules at jasongregor.com for Here Comes the Sun. It's pretty easy. Okay. So we will have a daily winner. And then there's one final step that you need to do. Email to ensure that you get in the draw. Everything today that you get qualified, your name, you're in. No one else can take your place, but you have to do the email final step to ensure you're in. Okay. It's pretty simple. It's very easy. That's what you need to do. So this week we're going to do trivia. Next week we might do a different way. We might just do a random caller. Connor loves it when we do like caller 68. It's fantastic. It's like his favorite game. But no, we're doing trivia the first week. Okay. And you know what? You don't have to be first. We always put a time on it. We give 4 minutes. So you'll have 4 minutes to submit the answer to the question. Obviously, you have to get it correct. And then you'll be in the draw. Connor then fires up his wonderful text machine draw, spits out a number. And if it's you, you win. Okay. So our trivia question today, and by the way, you see that Utah has already got like over 6,000 season seats. So people are saying, geez, I already got more than the Coyotes in a few hours. Not a surprise. Let's be real here. Not a surprise at all. So we were talking about, physical players on the Edmonton Oilers. And, if you look at it over time. Now, keep in mind that this question that I ask you, I'll give you one hint. Okay, keep in mind before you answer that this is a statistic that has only been kept since 2006. Okay? Make sense? So since 2006, right? That's the key, so don't pick a name that's prior to 2006, because I can tell you that you won't win. That's pretty easy. So my question is, the Edmonton Oilers, they've had numerous players who finished the season with over 200 hits. Evander Kane has 250 this season. There's only one defenseman in Oilers history who's ever had 200 hits in a season. Can you name the player? 833-401-1440. 833-401-1440. Their name and your name. The only Oiler defenseman to have 200 hits in a season. See if you know your thumpers on the Oilers blue line. So good luck. 833-401-1440. And that gets you into the draw. Then we'll do a random winner, and somebody, you could win a $15,000 solar system for your home, or gift it to somebody courtesy of Action Electrical. And if you want to see all what they offer, go to actionelectrical.net. You can, so if you want to start doing some studying, maybe, if you like, you can do that now. So you got 4 minutes. The clock is on. I turn my timer on. We got 4 minutes. That'll be about till 5:36. Okay. So there you go. In the meanwhile, in the meantime, I should say, not the meanwhile, in the meantime, while we wait for that, do want to get to the lineup report brought to you by Sherwood Power Sports and Marine this Saturday, April 20th from 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. It is their grand opening. And they have giveaways, lots of them. Somebody's going to ride away with a brand new Vamoose Ranger e-bike. Somebody else is going to get a portable power inverter generator. Maybe if you're a boat person, the Tohatsu outboard motor and more. So lots of great giveaways this Saturday, 11 till 3 at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. Whew, that's pretty nice. So we got, I'm going to give you guys a hint because I see a lot of the same guess and it's incorrect. It's not Gator, not Jason Smith. Okay. Why? Well, because they didn't track hits when he was a member of the Oilers. I know. And actually, no, that's not true. He was. He just wasn't up there. So there's my one hint because a lot of you were getting it wrong. I like people to get it right. You have a chance. You don't have any chance to get it wrong. So 833-401-1440. The only Oilers defenseman with over 200 hits. Also, the human rake? No.
And include your name, Gregor.
Yes, include you. That's what we said. Because you know what? If we don't have your name, we can't call you. Hey, hello. No. If you don't include your name, that's a big fail. But because I said it's not a sprint. Not a sprint. So see where it goes. The lineup tonight, the Edmonton Oilers. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. Okay. Based on a few conversations, I think the Edmonton Oilers are going to rest a fair amount of their regulars tonight. They do have 6 extra bodies, 4 forwards and 2 defensemen. So I think Draisaitl, McDavid. I think Ekholm and Bouchard. Kane is the wild card. So if he can go, then I think Nugent Hopkins and Hyman will come out. If Kane can't go, then I don't know. Did Nugent Hyman flip a coin? We'll see. But let's just assume that Hyman's out. So I have Nugent Hopkins with Henrique and Fogle, McLeod with Perry and Holloway, Sam Carrick between Brown and Janmark, Derek Ryan with Adam Ernie and Sam Gagner. And then on defense, you will have Nurse and Cece, Kulak, Stetcher, Broberg, and Desharnais. All right. So that would be my guess, most likely, for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, the Avalanche, they don't have a lot of extra bodies around. Now, why? Because they haven't played since Sunday. Like the Oilers have played 3 games. This will be their 3rd game in 4 nights. The Avs, it's their 1st game in 4 nights. Drouin, McKinnon, and Rantanen, Lehkonen, Middlestad, and Nichushkin, Wood, Colton, and Parise, Cogliano, Trennan, and Duhaime. On the back end, Taves and Makar, Walker and Manson, and then Johnson and Jones. That's Caleb Jones, former Oiler. The Avalanche did have the optional skate this morning. Sam Girard left Saturday's game, was in concussion protocol. Obviously, it's not quick enough, so I don't expect him in. And the reports out of Colorado from the Denver reporters was that Annunen was going to get the starting goal tonight. He was in the starter's net for the practice all morning. So that's an interesting one. Do they just want Georgiev to just, you know what, take some more time off, try to find his game? Because it hasn't been great. But the other thing is, if you actually look, the Colorado Avalanche here in the last few months, they are 23rd in high danger chances against. It's not good. Like, they give up a lot. Now, Annanen's faced a similar amount, albeit against lower level teams, right? So you're looking at Annunen. So since he's come up here in their last 32 games, they've split it 22 starts for their starter, Georgiev, and then 10 for Annunen. Now, for Annunen, though, he only played 1 playoff team. That was Tampa. Georgiev's played 15. So while Annunen does have good numbers, he's beating up on the San Jose's and the Anaheims and the Chicagos. Well, you still got to make the saves, don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit different than playing Dallas and Edmonton and Winnipeg and Vegas and Winnipeg and Nashville and Vancouver. So I still think they'll start with Georgiev, but they're in tough because they're going up against the best goalie in the West right now in Connor Halley. And that's why I'm leaning pretty heavily towards the Jets in this series. So there you go. Our timer's done. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll announce the winner. And somebody could be getting the sun all the time at their home, courtesy of Action Electrical. Here on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Truck Month
Three, welcome back, man. We had a lot of guesses. We had a lot of names. I like it. Running the gauntlet. We had a lot of Pronger, a lot of Sheldon Surrays. Incorrect. We had quite a few Jason Smiths, which we mentioned was also incorrect. But the correct answer was Mr. Adam Larson, which many of you did get correct. I will say shout out to where is it? To Rhino the Boilermaker, who had Theo Peckham, and he was close. The Peckster was close one year, but didn't make it. I actually ran into Theo in Toronto when I was there in March. And I was there for the Leafs game, and he was in building around it. He was wearing an Oilers jersey, matter of fact. Of course, representing, he said, his former team in the crowd. So doing really well. He's got a business going, young kids in sports, so he's having a good life, he said. So that's great. But for all of you who got the Larson, Connor put it in the machine, and Jason is the winner today. Jason, congratulations. You've qualified. How you doing?
Thanks, Gregor. Good. And yourself?
I'm excellent. Do you would this be for you, or do you know yet? Would you want to gift it to somebody? What's your thoughts on the solar system on your home from Action Electrical?
I'm not 100% sure yet, but I know I would need to get my shingles replaced first.
Okay.
Been out in the house now almost, I guess it's been 11 years now, and they were there when we moved in, so I'm guessing they would need to be replaced.
Yeah, well, you could do that beforehand, and then you put the system on. Now you're locked in for a long time, so that is an option. You definitely could do it because it's not like they have to install it right away. So that is an option if that's something that you need. So the solar, it's an Unreal package valued at up to $15,000. So it'll save you huge money on that, but also it's a long-term impact for saving you big money. So good luck. Stay on the line. Connor will get all your information. You have one final step to go to ensure you're qualified through the email process. Connor will walk you through that, and good luck.
Thanks very much.
Well, there you go. So, nice. Thinking ahead, maybe. And we've had a few people wondering, well, why would you need the shingles? Well, because you have the older shingles, and they put the system on your home. Then to take it all off, it's going to cost you a lot of money to take, because you don't want to throw the system away. You got to take it off. Then you got to take your shingles off. So that's why they prefer to, because if you put it on shingles, it'll obviously protect it a little bit. So if your shingles are 12 years or newer, then it's going to last quite a while better. And so, like, obviously, it's not like it lasts forever for the length of your shingles, but it will save you a lot early on. So big thanks to Action Electrical. Now, if you have a tin roof, don't worry about it. You can do it. So pretty easy peasy. 833-401-1440 is the text line. Wondering about the lineup tonight. We'll get the official one probably coming up in about Knobloch's going to speak. When the Oilers don't have the morning skate, by NHL rules, you have to make the coach available within 90 minutes of puck drop. So, and they don't do it any earlier because, the coach doesn't want to be there in the middle of the day, and a lot of the media guys don't want to get there that early. So it's between 2 hours and 90 minutes. And Knobloch, I think the game starts tonight at, they say 7:30, but we all know that that's closer to 7:45. But he'll be speaking sometime in the 6 o'clock hour to update everyone in the lineup. We have a pretty good guess. You're not calling up Adam Ernie and Sam Gagner just so you can, sit out your fourth line guys, right? That doesn't make any sense. They don't play that much. They don't want to sit out. They want to play, right? Like some of those guys are probably licking their chops. Hey, I might get some power play time tonight, right? McDavid's out. Draisaitl's out. I'm guessing Bouchard, Ekholm. Then it comes down to probably two of Kane, Nugent Hopkins, and Hyman, depending on the health of Evander Kane. Maybe they talk to him and say, hey, we'll rest you last night, but then you can play tonight. And Nugent Hopkins and Hyman sit out. So we will find out later on. Colorado, though, expect a pretty full lineup from them. They don't have a lot of extra guys around because, they're going to need to. They didn't call up a lot of their guys because they haven't played since Sunday. So most players don't like to go a full week without playing. Right, especially if you're a skill guy, you want to touch the puck, you want to feel it. So look for McKinnon and the fact that he's going for 140 points. We saw it last night with Kucherov. You saw it with McDavid. Those round number milestones, it's not only important for the player, it's important for his teammates. Did you see Tampa's reaction when Kucherov got, like, he didn't score the goal. He got the assist and they went right at him. Because, hey, it's a big deal, 100 apples. Only 5 guys in NHL history, and actually only 3, Gretzky, Lemieux, and Kucherov, have had 100 assists and 40 goals in the same season. Like that, he is having himself a hell of a year. And that's why I think it's a 2-horse race between Kucherov and McKinnon. You can make a strong argument either one to see who you like for that award, but both of them are having unreal seasons. Unreal. Hey, boys, quick questions. Do you think the Oilers re-signed Carrick? I've been really impressed with him since joining. And who do you guys want the Oilers to play in the first round from JC? It's a good question. I know Sam and his family, he's here now. He's pretty happy. He found a house to a fully furnished house that he could rent for a few months. So, with a young family, he did talk about, he is Canadian and, playing in Canada in the snow. He's been in Anaheim for a long time. You like the lifestyle for sure. But I don't know. It depends on, what the cost would be, right? Because the Oilers, the truth of the matter is, you look at their cap for next year. If you're a bottom 6 guy, like it's why Fogle, I think, is going to be really hard pressed to resign here. Not because they don't want him, because they're probably not going to have the cap space for the money he's going to get after scoring 20 goals. Right? It's going to be difficult. But so Adam Henrique, I don't know how they fit him in, to be honest. Matthias Janmark's a UFA, Corey Perry's UFA, Sam Carrick's UFA. Right? Obviously, Gagne, Ernie, those guys are all UFAs. Right? Derek Ryan has 1 year left, but it's at $900K. And if you think Carrick's better than him, right? If they had to, I'm not saying they would, Derek Ryan could be your 13th forward, or worst case scenario, if you want someone else on the team, he could go to the minors if he had to, right? Doesn't count against the cap. In theory, they could do that if they wanted to. But yeah, I think, Carrick, there's a chance. Right. He fills a lot of the boxes and what they like. And, he was making $850 this season. So, and he had a pretty good year, right? 10 goals for was that the second time, I think, in his career. So I could see him possibly, coming back to Edmonton. Like, he's only ever known Anaheim prior to coming to Edmonton. And like anything, man, if they go on a deep run and have a lot of success, if you're Sam Carrick, and you're probably going to get similar money everywhere, why wouldn't you want to stay in a place right? He chipped in here. He had 5 points in 15 games. It's actually really good production. Right? He had his 2 goals in 15 games. He's on the exact same goal-scoring pace. He's a 10-goal scorer. He had 8 goals in 60 games. He had 2 in 15 here. Right? Him and Henrique have maintained the exact same goal-scoring pace they had in Anaheim. So basically, you got the player that you were trading for. Hey, boys, anyone know what Kane's health issues are? Nothing serious. He's been dealing with nagging injuries off and on all season. I know he had a knee issue there for a bit. So I honestly, I can't tell you, but all I know is that Kane will play when the playoffs begin. It's kind of like, Connor McDavid sat out for 3 games to rest. Kane's in the exact same boat. And, it wasn't a real surprise to me. McDavid's ready to play. Okay, now Evander, you can rest. And I think that's essentially what happened there. So nothing that's that devastating for him. He'll be ready for game 1, which is likely to be on Monday night. I keep getting questions about it. We'll know for sure probably later tonight, but I'm pretty confident. Now, game 2, I'm not as confident if it's going to be Thursday. They told me they might change to Wednesday. So, but I think it's going to be a Monday for sure for game 1. Game 2, maybe Wednesday, Thursday. Now, people wonder, why wouldn't they just go every second day? Well, building availability, not so much in Edmonton, but depending on who they play, you could go Monday, Wednesday, and then you rest until Saturday, or you go Monday, Thursday, Saturday. Right? You can do both. But I do know from a TV perspective, they would like the Edmonton Oilers on the Saturday night. Right? It's Connor McDavid. It's a big draw. Not just for Edmonton, but for around the league. Lots of people. You got Saturday night hockey. Lots are going to be watching Connor McDavid. On behalf of Connor Halley, I'm Jason Gregor. Hope you're having yourselves a wonderful evening. Enjoy the game. Kind of stress-free game for Oilers fans tonight. The outcome really doesn't matter. The Vegas and LA ones, though, those ones will impact for sure. Now, let's get to a Sports 1440 update brought to you by High Street Insurance. They take the time to assess your commercial situation, ensuring you get coverage that's finely tuned to the nuances of your business operations. Go to highstreetinsurance.com. Good night.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
It's game day. The Oil back in action, taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Puck drop just after 7:30 for some pregame coverage. You can keep it locked on the Oilers Nation YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter stream. Aaron Bordato's got your pregame coverage. It's pregaming with Bordsy. Elsewhere tonight, they've got the Jets taking on the Canucks. The Flames host the Sharks. Golden Knights take on the Ducks. And the Kings up against the Chicago Blackhawks. One game going on right now. Wild leading the Kraken 1-0 after 20 minutes. The news off the ice. The NHL's 28-year stay in the state of Arizona officially over. The league's Board of Governors voting unanimously today to approve the sale and relocation of the franchise to Salt Lake City for the start of next season. As part of the deal, ownership of the team will be assumed by Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith. The team is expected to play out of the Delta Center, the current home of the Jazz. Major League Baseball, light night, just 5 games on the schedule. One's already been postponed due to rain. Cubs, Marlins. They'll make that one up on Saturday. Finals, Guardians knocked off the Red Sox 5-4. Tigers falling at home to the Rangers 9-7. And the Rays doubled up the Angels 2-1. Later tonight, you'll have the Giants meeting the Diamondbacks. First pitch set for 7:45. And in the PWHL, after 20 minutes, Montreal leads Minnesota 2-0. And it's scoreless in Boston between Boston and Toronto. That'll do it for us here on the Jason Gregor Show. We've got Fox Sports Radio coming up tonight at 9 o'clock. And then tomorrow morning, it's Brandon Douglas with Kevin Carius and guest host Eddie Steele. That'll get going at 7 a.m. as they recap Oilers Avs and look ahead to a busy weekend in the sporting world. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station broadcasting on Treaty 6 territory.
Download the free iHeartRadio app and listen to Seek,